from ecovegangal.com, and welcome back to another live Q&A. Today I have a very special guest who I will be announcing soon, but of course I have some quick things to say to get started. Welcome, as always. Every Saturday these live Q&As happen where I answer your questions. So if you're watching live, you can actually ask your own questions. We'll be getting to those around 45 minutes into this. If you're watching the recorded version of this, you can actually look in the YouTube description field or the, what is it? What is it? SoundCloud. SoundCloud, right?
I've never used this before.
You've never used SoundCloud? I swear you had something on SoundCloud. Maybe I'm making that up. SoundCloud is where I have the audio podcast version of this, which also has the links in the description field. So you can actually click and jump forward to specific sections instead of watching or listening to the entire thing. And speaking of SoundCloud, that's a relatively new thing. If you prefer to listen to this, if perhaps you want to just listen while you're in the car, while you're working out, while you're taking a walk or something, that's available for you to download, and the link will be in the YouTube description field. Also in this description field will be links to everything we're talking about today. So there'll be a link to Sayward's website and videos that we're referencing. There'll be links to products that we discuss. Anything else that's going on will be linked. So you can click on there in the YouTube description field or the SoundCloud description field or wherever you're paying attention today. And usually that takes up to 24 hours for that content to be created, so you might need to come back on Sunday or Monday to get that. If you're watching live and you want to ask questions, you need to go to Google+. So google.com/+ecovegangal, and you'll see a Ask Question button, which you can click on, and it brings up a little option, and you'll see other people's questions. You can vote up on them. If you're not watching live and you don't have the chance to ask your question, you can click on the bit.ly link, which will also be in the description fields, where you can ask your question for future Q&As. And maybe if this goes really well, we'll do more of these. So we've got a lot of questions for Sayward today. Lastly, if you want to ask a question using your voice, you can use a special feature down in the description field called SpeakPipe, which allows you to record a voice recording of your question, which I can play. I didn't know about that. Voices. Yes, that's awesome. It's amazing. It's completely free. Yeah. And lastly, please feel free to chime in with your comments, whether you're watching live or you're listening or watching to any of the recordings. You are part of the community here, so give your advice, ask further questions, chime in with whatever you want, as long as you're respectful of other people. That's all I ask. I have a few announcements today for you. Number one, I will be running a giveaway in a few days featuring this really cool thing. I don't know what that is. This is a sound amplifier for mobile devices like the iPhone. And all you do is put the iPhone in there, and it actually makes your music louder. Yeah. Maybe I should demo something real quick.
I use my car cup holder to do that in my car. Yeah.
So you can actually use a glass jar, but I always found that so awkward. Yeah. And this company called Loud Bastard, which I think is such a cool name. Here's a good one. It's playing a new Katy Perry song, which you can hear.
Oh, that's awesome. Is it bamboo?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just one piece of bamboo.
The reason I love this is because it's made from one piece of bamboo. Yeah. They carve it out. They show you the whole process. You can watch these really neat videos online. Super sustainable. They're such an amazing company. They also use the pieces that are cut out for these sections, and you can actually, which one of the other things I'm giving away from this company are little stands for an iPhone or mobile device. So all the information is going to be on ecovegangal.com on Monday. So be sure to either subscribe to the newsletter, which is, I think, important anyways, go to the Facebook page, which I'll really be promoting this, or you can just go to ecovegangal.com or all of the above to learn how you can win one of these. I can't remember how many they're giving away, but I'm giving away a bunch, plus a bunch of the kickstands, so you have a really good chance of winning one. Giveaways are so great, and we've timed it so that you'll get it before the 4th of July. So if you're having a little party, barbecue outside or something, you can use this to amplify your music, which I think is so neat. So next up I wanted to mention two other great opportunities for you that are low cost. One is the vegan cruise, the vegan vacation at sea that I'm part of. I'm doing a food demo along with Jason Robel, the vegan zombie, the black metal vegan chef, Issa Chandra Moskowitz, and Yoko Skinner. We're all teaching about plant-based cuisine for 7 days in the Caribbean on a cruise. I've mentioned this several times. They have a deal going on. I believe it's only a $100 deposit, and I forget what the other aspect is, but I will link to that down below if you're thinking about the cruise. They run sales from time to time, and they keep getting better and better, so definitely take advantage of it. I don't know when their next one is going to be, so if you've really been on the fence about it, take advantage of it when you can, because who knows? Well, I say they keep getting better and better, but I also have no idea if they're planning any future sales, so if you're interested, be sure to take them up. And also, this week is the Costa Rica Epic Living Retreat, which I'm going to be teaching at virtually. But right now, Jason Robel is there, along with Amber, Koya, Fully Raw, Christina. And they're going to be teaching great classes for 7 days. If you're watching right now, I assume you're not there. But if you had known about this and felt sad that you weren't able to make it, you can actually watch the entire thing virtually. There's 2 different packages. One's a 7-day package that gives you basically everything, and we're looking at the cats. And the other one is a 5-day package where it's a little bit more limited but less expensive. The links to that down below. Either one is under $100. I forgot to write down the prices, but I think one of them is $49. They're really affordable, and so you can get all of the content. I'm going to be teaching 3 workshops on eco-living in your home, so all about detoxing your home, being as eco-friendly as possible in the kitchen, making sure that you're cleaning with eco-friendly products, all about cosmetics. I'm really thrilled about that one. Jason and Christina are going to be teaching raw food demos, so if you've been wanting to learn more about raw food, that's great. Amber is going to be teaching all about Pilates, and Koya will be doing acro yoga classes. So again, you can watch this all from home, really affordable, and the link will be down below for that. That is it for announcements. Now let's turn everything over to all these incredible questions we have.
Yeah.
So let me introduce this beautiful guest I have today. If you haven't gone to her website yet, which is in the lower third down below, Sayward runs a great website called Bonsai Aphrodite, where she blogs. It's been really well received. You have such an amazing fan base, and you've really just been documenting your life as a vegan mother. She wrote a whole book called The Vegan Pregnancy Survival Guide, which we'll link down below. So if any of you have been thinking about getting pregnant, know other people who are pregnant, I've talked about this a few times, but I think that it's so nice to hear different perspectives from people and get all that information. And now that you have a son, you continue to document anything that you're learning along with him, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So she is a wealth of information. We're going to be covering some children-related topics today. I don't think we're getting into pregnancy unless any of you have specific questions that you ask when we do the live questions. But we are going to be covering things like nutrition for toddlers, which is a really hot topic, and something that you've researched and experienced firsthand.
Lots, yeah.
And then, well, first of all, we're actually going to be addressing another hot topic, which is about preventing ex-vegans. If any of you were drawn to this video today because of the Facebook post that I put up yesterday.
The contentious Facebook post.
We received some really fascinating comments that I want to share with you today. It's, you know, as usual, people are on many different ends of the spectrum, and I linked to one of Sayward's blog posts and a recent video a lecture that you did that was captured on video. And I love this. I can't wait to hear everything you have to say. So let's jump right in. Again, anyone watching live, please go to Google+. You can ask your questions right now, and we'll get to them in about 40 minutes or so. And this video might run a little bit long.
Yeah, we have a lot to say.
There's a lot to be said. You have a lot to say. So let's start off with some super easy questions. And just so anyone knows that's new to these videos, they're basically collected from a few different sources: Facebook, the form down below. There'll be a bit.ly link on YouTube for you to add your questions to, and also just questions I've received over the past few years that I've been wanting to answer. So some of these might be a little bit on the older side, or some of these might be from people watching right now. Who knows? But I think the point is I'm always looking for questions that everyone can relate to. So let's start off with one from Alessandro, who asked, if you had to eat on the run and the only options were supermarkets, what would you buy, excluding Whole Foods?
No Whole Foods, how will we survive?
So let's hear your perspective.
So I actually have a lot of experience with this. I've done a lot of traveling, and actually a lot of traveling in rural places where it's harder to find some of the health food items that we might be used to eating. But I actually haven't had a lot of trouble eating. I think you kind of have to maybe adjust your expectations of what your meal will look like. You might not get a hot meal, and you might not get all the components that you're used to having, but you can have a totally awesome, delicious, very well-balanced meal from any grocery store, and often from even like a gas station.
Yeah, so tell us about some gas stations.
Well, it depends on the gas station and where you're at. My absolute number one go-to is peanut butter.
Oh, right.
Peanut butter is high in protein, it's high in fat, so it's going to make you feel sated, give you that sense of fullness, like I actually ate something that just like fruit or a green salad or something wouldn't give you, which is really important when you're traveling. So peanut butter, or if you can find it, almond butter, of course, is awesome too. But even in the most rural places that I've been, I haven't had trouble finding like a natural peanut butter, at least with no hydrogenated oils or added sugar. Those are pretty easy to find nowadays. So peanut butter and then just apples is one of my favorites. So peanut butter and apples is great. Peanut butter and like
bananas.
Whole grain bananas. Yeah, any fruit that goes with peanut butter. But then whole grain bread is really great if you're not avoiding gluten. Whole grain bread will have 4 to 6 grams of protein per slice, right? And so you can just get your loaf of bread, your bag of apples, and your peanut butter. And I've traveled, I've gone on long road trips, and peanut butter, apples, and bread have gotten me from point A to point B very well fed. So that's, super simple. But you don't really have to rely on apples and peanut butter. Hummus is available. I was really surprised. I went back to Maryland with my boyfriend to visit his family this last summer, and we were in the middle of like nowhere, super rural Maryland, and there was a Walmart, and they had a wide selection of hummuses.
Yes!
At Walmart.
I was in the same place at one point when I was in Tennessee for the Bonnaroo Music Festival last year.
Yeah.
Everything closed late at night, and I ended up going to Walmart, and I honestly, the reason I avoid Walmart in general is because I don't want to, because we vote with our dollars.
Absolutely.
So every time we pay for something, we're not only supporting the company that we're buying from, but we're supporting the store.
Absolutely.
And Walmart has a host of issues, one of which is that they take over and a lot of local businesses have to close as a result. I mean, that's a whole other topic.
Totally, yeah. But in a pinch.
Yeah, I decided, you know what, I was curious what they had.
Yeah.
And I went in and was shocked at how many organic products they had.
Earth Balance. I found Earth Balance, hummus.
Vegan galore.
Yeah. It was amazing.
I got, I think, in Amy's Kitchen makes all those frozen meals. I got like a frozen gluten-free, vegan, organic meal from Walmart.
Right.
And they had Justin's Nut Butters, which is a beloved vegan and natural nut butter option. Yeah. They had a good variety of things. So my feeling is with that, if you don't necessarily want to go to a place like that, but that's the only option, if you're actually still voting with your dollar because you're saying Walmart, I like the vegan stuff.
I like the vegan stuff. I like the organic stuff. Exactly.
And we can't live in this world where we think that everybody has access to Whole Foods or wants to spend their money at Whole Foods. Right. I think that, in a way, supporting gas stations and Walmart and smaller businesses or big businesses, if you're buying healthy vegan food and organic food and gluten-free food, you're creating a bigger demand.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, healthy plant-based food can be accessible to anyone, anywhere.
Yes, and that's a huge point, too. Yeah. So in a perfect world, we would shop at, only vegan stores or only organic or local places, but in the meantime, we can go to these other places. So I think that's a great question. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Josh asked, what do you recommend for a vegan breakfast? I'm trying really hard to back off eggs, which is kind of part of this whole conversation we're going to be having today. Right. I'm getting bored with oatmeal and have already tried tofu scrambles. Real quick, I actually answered this a few weeks ago in a Q&A, and I'll link to that down below, Josh, so that you can get my full answer. So let's just focus on Sayward's answer to that.
Yeah, so this is a really common problem that people have when they're switching from omnivore or vegetarian to vegan, because most people rely on eggs for breakfast. And there's a really good reason, and that's because eggs are high in protein and eggs are high in fat. And so they're a really good way to start the day. They give you that lasting energy, that slow burning energy. If you eat just a carb heavy breakfast, you're going to feel full right away, but then it's going to go away very quickly because it's instantly burned. So it's not going to leave you feeling full for a long time. And so what you want to look for is a vegan breakfast that's going to kind of replicate that high fat, high protein. So you said you're kind of burnt out on oatmeal. There are other porridges that you can look into. Teff is a really good one. Buckwheat and quinoa can also be made into a breakfast porridge. These are actually not grains, they're pseudo grains, as I'm sure you know. So they have more like a profile of a seed. They're higher in nutrients. They're also complete proteins if that's important to you, and they're higher in protein than some other grains. Although I should say that oatmeal, a serving of oatmeal has as much protein as one large egg.
Wow.
So that's a 1-for-1, yeah. And the teff, the buckwheat, and the quinoa will be even more protein. So they're good, and then you can add some nuts or some nut butter to kind of add a little bit of that healthy fat. That's that kind of mouthfeel that makes it taste so good and makes you really want to eat it. Yeah. Fresh fruit, all that stuff. If you want to move away from porridge, and it sounds like he does, so my absolute favorite breakfast, and everyone that I've told this to has become an instant convert. I don't know if you've tried pudla, which is
no idea what that is.
Yeah, so pudla and then soka, and I don't even know if I'm saying those right. But it's basically a pancake made out of chickpea flour. So
there's different names.
There's different names from different regions of the world. People eat them all over the world. Yeah, so it's basically just ground down chickpeas to make chickpea flour. So it's super high in protein. It's concentrated legume. You make it into a pancake, which sounds like it's going to be labor intensive, but it seriously takes like 2 minutes.
So you make this yourself?
Oh yeah, so easy. Yeah, you just add water and some spices. Sometimes put a little nutritional yeast in there, just whatever you want. If you just Google, I have a recipe on my blog, and you can do it savory, you can do it sweet. I usually do it savory, and you can put in whatever kind of vegetables you have. It's kind of like a clean out the crisper thing. But it functions a lot like an omelet because it's like super high protein, and then you put in tons of veggies, and it's so awesome, and it's so filling, especially you put some avocado on top.
Ooh,
yeah.
I see. Here's a picture,
you got it.
Everybody. That looks amazing.
Yeah.
Josh, you better go check this out. I'll link to this down below. The post is called I Heart Pudla.
I Heart Pudla.
I love her posts. Her posts are so fun. You really feel like you're with her and your best friend.
Oh,
ooh, look at that. There's another name for this. What is this?
Socca, S-O-C-C-A, is like a thinner kind of chickpea crepe. No?
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah. They use chickpea flour to make pancakes all around the world, so different regions have different names for it.
Yeah.
But chickpea flour is really cheap, which is awesome. Bob's Red Mill makes some. It's like $2.50 for a big bag, so it's
Farinata. I think that's the Italian
version
of it. Okay,
yeah,
so
I've never heard that one.
Chickpea crepe is the
right.
American version of it.
Right.
No, so pudla is that's Indian?
Yes.
Probably the Indian word. Okay.
Yeah, and you can throw whatever spices you want in there. It's so variable. And then I developed a recipe for a sweet one too, which is also on my blog, which is more just like a traditional pancake. And yeah, they're so good. But it's like you can have that, like a pancake, but it's naturally so high in protein, it really fills you up in the morning.
That's so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. See, we're all learning stuff.
Yeah. And then the last thing I just wanted to say, because I've told this to a lot of my clients, I think that people discount like toast. And toast is actually like really great if you have a whole grain bread, like I said earlier. It's 4 to 6 grams of protein. It's got all those B vitamins. It's got fiber. A good quality bread, if you can eat gluten, is actually really good for you. And if you just put some nut butter on top of that, then you've got like a great breakfast. Or if you want savory, I love to do like the mashed avocado, some tomato slices, some lemon pepper. Like that is a dope breakfast.
Yeah, there's so
and super
many
easy.
Options.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been a big breakfast fan. I talk about this in the other video, but like smoothies can also just be amazing.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways. So again, I'll link to that if you want to know what my answer is to this. That will be there.
But yeah, I think the key is to try and remember to replicate that fat and protein. If you're wanting to replace eggs, that's what you need to hit.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to move on to the pregnancy and the kind of the ex-vegan conversation. None of the questions that we have today are specifically about that, but they kind of are. Yeah. They're kind of on the verge of it. So after we're done with the questions, I do want to read some of those Facebook comments, because there was actually some great comments from people who are in that struggling phase. If anybody watching out there is thinking that they're not sure if they can be vegan anymore, this is kind of where this conversation is going to go now. And by the way, if you have questions, be sure to go on googleplus.com or google.com/+ecovegangal. If you're watching on YouTube, we won't be able to see your comments, so please ask your questions on Google+, and we'll get to them there.
And just to give maybe a little bit of background for me, why I got interested in this topic of ex-vegans is I got really sick a couple of years ago after my son was born. I had been vegan for a couple of years, and I ended up getting incredibly sick on my diet. And I was sick for years, and anyone who's had a chronic illness knows how completely life-changing or shattering. I mean, it consumes your entire world when you're sick, and it's not it's one of the hardest things that I've ever dealt with. And I ended up finally getting to a point where I was very seriously questioning my veganism, and I would say, this close to being an ex-vegan. I found a way to get healthy staying vegan.
Look how healthy she is. She's a very healthy woman.
But I am an incredibly stubborn person and incredibly persistent person, and I was also living in Portland, Oregon, where I had exceptional access to vegan resources, to vegan health practitioners, and so I was in this very specific situation that a lot of people don't have. And so that experience not only piqued my interest in ex-vegans, which they say 75% of vegetarians end up going back. So this is it's shocking, and it's a real issue that our community should be talking about, and we're not really talking about it, and it's really important. But also, going through what I went through, I feel like I've gained a unique sort of empathy for people who are in that situation, and I think the way that we as a community react, respond to, and treat those people is really important for us to kind of talk about and maybe change the way that we treat people.
And please remember to bring that up again once we get to the comments, because that's something too. But let's go through the questions first.
Yeah.
So we'll start with one that kind of is in that realm there. We've got a lot of questions from people who have families, and Sayward's so great because she has a family as well. So you've been through so many aspects of this. This question comes from Libby, who asked, I've been researching for a year about diet and nutrition for the best way to feed my family and eliminate GMOs. Or except for eliminating GMOs, I have no clue what to do. I lean towards veganism. I was a vegetarian before, but I became anemic. I'm very concerned about nutritional deficiencies. The other diet I've been researching is Weston A. Price. It doesn't appeal to me as much, but it does remind me of how my grandparents eat, and they're super healthy. I'm just really confused and begging for help. One thought I had was to go vegan and just make sure my girls had raw milk. Some vegans would debate that, but my children's health always comes before a cow. Any resources and advice? It's so important to feed your kids right, but it's so confusing. My second child has a heart defect, so teaching her and giving her the right start is even more important for us. So in summary, she wants to eat very clean. She likes the idea of eating like her grandparents do. So Weston A. Price is one common diet for that. Paleo is another one, which I've addressed. Eliminating GMOs. At one point, I think the same question, she said something about, I might have taken it out, but it was about packaged food. And also just her concern over her own struggles with anemia. One of her children has a heart defect. Right. And I guess she's been getting some information from her research and feeling that she needs to feed them raw milk. So there's a few questions that are similar to this.
There's a lot in there.
And we'll get to, I want to save some of the kind of nutrient stuff
for specific stuff,
other people, but I guess I'm curious, how did you figure out the best way to feed your family? How did you decide that you felt confident about feeding your son? And again, should I just read all of the questions and we should answer this as a group?
I would like to answer this one specifically, just because I read this question and it just I wish I could sit down with Libby and just have a conversation with her, because I I feel the like the pain and the fear and the sort of confusion in her question, and it's really clear that she's been doing a lot of research and that she's now developed a lot of anxiety around feeding her family. And this is something that I see over and over, and it's really, really common. When you go on the internet and you start researching nutrition, what you find, and I'm sure everyone out there has done this, is that everyone has a different idea of what the perfect human diet is. Yes. And so she's listening to, it sounds like, Weston Price, and then veganism too. So Weston Price is over here, and they're saying, like, eliminate soy, eliminate beans because of the anti-nutrients, and the greens because of the oxalates. So eliminate all this. And then vegans are saying eliminate, meat, dairy, eggs. And some vegans, depending on who you are, will say like oils and fats too. And so like you're eliminating all of this, and then like what's left for you to eat? Yeah. And that's really scary. Yeah. I think one of the main problems that Libby is having, and that a lot of people have, is that she's trying to find the perfect diet. And the thing is that there is no perfect diet.
Sadly.
Yeah, well, no, happily. Yeah. I find a lot of like relief in this, right? So I don't know how much you know, and I'm sure people out there don't know that my background, I have a bachelor's degree in biology, and right now I'm working on a master's degree in macroevolution. So I'm studying evolution, right? And so one of my interests is like human evolution and how we've evolved eating, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the coolest things about humans is that we can eat everything. Like that's the truth of it, right? So like most species around the world, if you think about it, like they're living in one little place, and they're highly adapted to live in that one little place. They have their ecological niche, and a big part of that niche is what they're eating. They're limited by their food resource, right? But humans have been able to spread all over the planet, and I think part of the reason that we've been so successful is because we can eat everything. Like as long as we can digest it, we can gain nourishment from it, right? So humans are what are called opportunistic scavengers, and that's what that means, that we can eat anything. And so if you look, like you can look at the Inuits living in, up above the Arctic Circle, and they're eating literally 99% animals. Like they're eating meat and blubber, and that is it, because nothing grows in the snow. That's all they have, and they've been living successfully for generations and generations and generations, right? Then you have in South America, in the Amazon, these tribes people who are literally eating 95% starch, right? Their diet consists mainly of these like big kind of sweet potato tubers, right? Mm-hmm. So they're eating 95% starch, and they're living for generations and generations. So what that says to me is that humans can eat all kinds of stuff and be incredibly healthy doing it. So maybe, to me, that helps me relax. I'm like, okay, like we're really good at getting what we need from our food, and I don't have to design a perfect diet, because there is no one perfect human diet.
Meaning that instead of designing the perfect diet, you are constantly adapting based on how you're feeling? Like, what does that mean to you?
Well, you will be eating the diet that's bio-individually right for your body.
Perfect for you.
Perfect for you.
Perfect for like everyone else.
What I see a lot of vegans doing is going, okay, I need calcium, I need iron, I need choline, I need, and laying out all these nutrients, and then they go online and they're like, okay, I'm going to make lists of foods that have all these things, and then, oh, but this interferes with this, so then they start eliminating. Okay, well, I have to eliminate this and I have to eliminate that because that's not healthy. And they're trying to construct some like perfect, like break down every meal. And what I've seen with my clients especially, and the work that I've done with ex-vegans, is that the anxiety created by trying so hard to micromanage our diet is far more unhealthy than any food that you could be eating.
Well,
stress is what makes you sick. And if you look at ex-vegans, and this is how this kind of relates into that, almost every single ex-vegan who got sick was restricting heavily. They weren't just vegan. They were vegan and no oil and fruitarian and blah, 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 and like taking out, I wasn't eating soy. And some people have to avoid that. Like we're both gluten-free because we have to be, because we have issues with it. But if you don't have an issue with gluten, there's no reason not to eat gluten. You can get a lot from bread. It's one more option, one more vegan option when you're out and about, one more way to make your life easier as a vegan, right? So
if you were speaking directly to Libby, you would say that, like, how would you recommend that she starts figuring out what's going to work best for her and best for her family? Like, What is the easiest, simplest way to start on that path?
So what we know is that we can be healthy eating all kinds of stuff, which means we can be healthy eating vegan, right? And we know that ethically eating vegan, I believe, is ethically correct, right? So for me, that's an easy decision. So I will be vegan because I can be healthy and I should do it ethically, right? So I would say try being vegan. And, you know, it's really hard with kids. For me, I let my child be my guide. Like, does he look healthy?
Yeah.
Yes. You know, he is vibrant and energetic and happy and so smart. And I've, you know, I'm lucky that when my son was born, I lived in Portland, Oregon. So, you know, the month that he was born, there were 2 vegan babies born that month besides him. So 3 vegan babies born just that month, right?
Portland.
In Portland.
Yeah.
So all of his friends were vegan. I've seen so many vegan kids, all the way from infants to teenagers. So I don't, you know, I know that they can be healthy. I've seen it, but other people don't have that. So maybe it would be helpful for her to reach out to online communities, you know, because I think building community is so important for sustainable veganism.
Yes.
As I'm sure, you work to build community. That's what you do.
Yeah.
So meetup.com is great if you want to go and find like a vegan group in your area. If you're in a bigger city, there's probably even a vegan families group. There's numerous ones here in LA. So creating community, learning how to eat vegan, you know, healthy, whole foods, plant-based diet, lots of variety, and then let your children be your guide. We've got kittens down here.
Spray them with water, otherwise they're going to yank all these cords.
Come on, get up. Good girl. But yeah, that's what my advice would be. Find the online resources, find the emotional support, the community support, you know, eat healthy vegan food and watch your kids thrive.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that leads right into the next point, which is 2 questions that are very similar. So I'll read them both, and we can answer them together. One is from Fraser. Fraser asked, how can one ensure that a vegan toddler gets all the nutrients they need? My friend who is a mother is worried about DHA, Coline,
yeah.
And making sure her little daughter eats enough protein and fat. Heather's question was, my doctor is giving me shit about raising my daughter mostly vegan. She's concerned about her iron and calcium intake. I feed her lots of iron-rich plant-based foods. So my issue is it's hard to get the quantity into her that's needed of this plant-based food. My doctor has suggested fortified soy milk, no thank you, or fortified baby cereal, again, no thanks. I've Googled my little heart out and I can't find anything. I was wondering if you had any suggestions. I try not to let her or us eat anything packaged. So the commonality is both Fraser and Heather asking about raising vegan children. Fraser is curious about DHA, choline, protein, and fat. Heather's concerned about iron and calcium. So it's kind of just this overall nutritional question. Are my children going to get the right nutrients? And can I get them from whole foods instead of packaged, processed foods?
Right. And every single one of those is a totally valid nutritional concern, I should say. You know, in my last answer, I said kind of like, relax. But it's true that, you know, you do, any mother, regardless of the diet that you're eating, you're going to think about feeding your children a complete and well-balanced diet, right? So this is not unique to vegans. There are some specific nutrients that can fall short if not taking care to get them on a vegan diet, and that is especially true with children because children are incredibly picky and they won't just eat a pile of broccoli if you put it in front of them, right? So we can kind of go through some of those. DHA, I think, was the first one.
Do you want to explain what DHA is in case people don't know?
Right. So DHA is an omega-3 fatty acid. These are the essential fatty acids. That essential means that we need to consume them. We don't make them. DHA is really important for brain development, for eyes, for depression, but the main thing for children is the brain development. They really need it for their growing brains. There are 3 different kinds of omega-3s, ALA, EPA, and DHA. And so ALA is the one that's available in plant foods that we get from like flax and chia, walnuts have a little bit, canola oil. There's a couple different places you can get it, but mostly flax and chia. The body converts ALA into EPA and DHA, which are the ones that we need for brain development. But here's the problem. conversion varies a lot from person to person, and we don't know how successfully we're converting ALA to DHA, right? So if you're just using plant sources like flax or chia, you can't necessarily be sure that you're going to get enough DHA. So for me, for my child, and this is my personal decision, I just supplement. I don't have a problem with that. Most people will eat fish or take fish oil to get their DHA. Where do the fish get the DHA? They get it from a plant. They get it from algae.
Right,
from algae,
exactly,
right.
Yep.
So it's really easy to take the DHA from the algae. They sell it, Diva, that brand,
DEVA
is the one, yeah. And so they make like a liquid, like a dropper, and my son loves it. I think it tastes like fishy death, but
it's algae from the
it's
ocean.
Algae, right? So I take capsules for me, but he loves that one, and so he'll just take a dropper, and I don't have a problem with that. I think that I would rather be safe than sorry. On my blog, and maybe we can link to it, I have a series of posts about kind of the philosophical ideas around supplementing vegan children, and then which supplements I've chosen and why.
Okay.
So I break that down pretty thoroughly on my blog. So if you are against supplementation, I would say make sure that your children are getting a lot
Is this
of.
the one?
Yeah.
So we'll link to all of these, but this is what you're looking for. I don't know how well you can see this, but it's called Raising Vegan Children Part 2. And it includes some of your favorite supplements. That's so wonderful.
Yeah, so there's part 1, part 2, part 3.
Okay, great.
Where I kind of talk about, all of this stuff.
Okay. How about choline? I didn't know what choline was.
Right.
That never comes up in conversations.
And it's so interesting. I was just talking to Matt Rosigno, who's a registered dietitian who I'm doing this ex-vegan research with. We're kind of partners in crime on this project. And we were just talking about choline. Choline was coming up, so it's funny that it came up in this question. Choline is an essential nutrient. Jack Norris is an RD. He does veganhealth.com, I think is his. And so he's done a whole fact sheet on choline. It's a really awesome resource. We can link to it. It breaks it all down. He's gone through all of the literature. He says that most likely if a vegan is eating a wide variety of foods, they're probably meeting their choline needs. Right now, we're not totally sure what the RDA of choline should be, because it's kind of like there's still a lot of research being done with this nutrient right now. If you're worried about your kid getting enough, because it is important, one of the main ways that people get it is from eggs and other animal products.
Right.
Lecithin.
This is his site, by the way, Vegan Health.
Vegan Health, yeah.
Which, again, all of these will be linked down below.
And that website is just an abundance of information and wealth. It's very science-based. He takes the time to lay it all out, go through the literature. This is what we really do know. So that's a great site.
So let's the protein question is something that's addressed very commonly in vegan questions. I think that if we can make that one a quicker one so we can get towards the others, is it just like any other vegan? Is it easy for children to get enough protein on the vegan or the plant-based diet? I believe that parents need to make a bit of an effort to make sure that their children are eating concentrated sources of vegan protein. I think that a lot of vegans tend to minimize the protein issue as a sort of pushback against the omnivores going, where do you get your protein? And vegans are like, oh my God, stop asking me. And so there's been this sort of pushback of like, you don't need to worry about protein, and I don't necessarily believe that that's always the case. Oh, okay. I think that sometimes we do need to be a little bit mindful. I'm someone, in my experience of getting sick, who learned that I do need to make sure that I get concentrated sources of vegan protein every day in order to feel my best. That's just what works for me. So there's protein in everything. Vegetable, so there's protein in everything. But it's different amounts depending on what fruits and produce and nuts and grains that you're eating. So when you say concentrated, do you mean like a protein powder? Beans. No, I just mean like beans. And I think, vegans get kind of touchy around protein, but like omnivores think about where they're going to get their protein. Their concentrated sources of protein are meat, eggs, or cheese, and they usually include it with every meal. So they're thinking about their protein too, Yeah. Maybe probably overthinking about it. But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with veganism to think about, like, oh, I should put some beans on the salad. It will make me feel fuller longer and give me, protein. It's awesome. So you want to look for the higher sources. So would nuts also fall into that category? I think beans are kind of
legumes, really. So peanuts are good. They have the full amino acid profile. Some of the other nuts, especially like cashews, fall short on some of the amino acids, so they're not as well-rounded. They're great. They're healthy foods for all kinds of other stuff. But if you're wanting your kids to get like what I consider a concentrated source of protein, I would say peanuts, all the beans, lentils, tofu and soy foods if you do soy. Tempeh, yeah. Seitan is good. I think, hemp. Yeah. Hemp is good.
Now there's hemp tofu, which I'm
Hemp tofu is awesome. Yeah.
So
good. I make taco crumbles out of it. So good.
I want some right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about fat?
So fat is really important for children. And I know that I feel like I'm constantly at odds with the vegan community. I'm like, I know everyone says this, but I think this.
You've done your research. So again, as you can tell, this isn't just coming from your personal opinion. This is coming from scholarly research. This is coming from a lot of book research.
And working with clients and talking to ex-vegans. I have a lot of experience.
So I love your opinion. Who cares if it differs? If it differs because of your research, then I think this is really important information to get out.
And I think, a lot of it is that veganism is pretty new. So a lot of the stuff that we hear about fat, for example, is coming from doctors who are trying to cure diseases, right? And so there's this big low-fat vegan diet push, right? It's very popular.
Low oil, too.
Low oil. Yeah. And they've shown that this is great for reversing disease, right? Yes. And for eliminating weight, for losing, massive weight loss. And that's really good. But children are not trying to reverse disease, and they're not trying to lose weight. They're actually trying to gain it, right?
Most children, we should say.
Right, most children. Okay. If they've been vegan from birth, they're probably
pretty healthy.
Right, and probably not overweight. Not that vegans can't be overweight at all, but vegan food does tend to be more calorie light, and children who are vegan tend to be, slender.
Yeah.
So, in the vegan community and in the health community in general, we talk a lot about like cleansing food, about detox, and I think there's this association that those foods are the healthy foods. So then those are the foods that we want to feed to our kids. But kids are not cleansing.
Right.
Kids are cleansed, right? Yes. They are pure. They're perfect. They don't need cleansing foods. They need building foods, right?
Yes.
So
great point.
Right. Yes. So kids need like the beans, the proteins. They need starches. They need cooked potatoes. They need, these kind of heavier foods that we don't think of as like maybe the healthy foods because we're like drinking juice and eating salads, which is also great for kids. My son drinks green juice. I feed it to him all the time, and he loves it.
Yeah.
But I make sure to give him, these foods, including fats.
Yes.
And I add oils to his food, and I think that is perfectly healthy. I do olive oil, I do hemp oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil for sure. Yeah.
Avocado, not just oils, but you probably.
I wish he ate avocado. He is the only vegan kid who doesn't like avocado. I'm like, you're vegan, you have to eat avocado. He won't eat it. Yeah.
That's a great point. I don't know if I've ever thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, moving on to iron.
Yeah.
For children. So what are some great high-quality plant-based sources of iron for children?
So my favorite source of iron is blackstrap molasses.
Ooh.
It has like 25 to 30% of your RDA in 1 tablespoon. For grown-ups, I'll take it right off the spoon. I did that during my 3rd trimester. My iron levels dropped. That's totally normal during pregnancy. And I started taking a spoonful of blackstrap molasses every day, and they shot back up.
Wow.
So that's like my favorite natural source of iron without having to supplement. Kids, it can be a little harder to get them to eat blackstrap molasses. It's sulfury and strong, and but you can put a little in their smoothie. You can put a little in their oatmeal. You can even do the cookies, although you won't get a ton of blackstrap in each cookie. So that's my number one. If you're going to a pediatrician, they're going to be testing the iron. They do that anyway, standard for all children, so you can get a good read. And I think, it's good to have your kids' blood tested every few years anyway, just to make sure that they're not missing anything. But I don't know that iron is a problem for vegan children. I think that iron is a problem for milk-drinking children.
Wow.
The children who suffer from anemia more are children who drink cow's milk because it causes your stomach to, there's lactose intolerance that goes on, and then their stomach bleeds a little bit. And this is what I've heard, is that the non-vegan children have more of a problem with iron.
Interesting.
But if your kids are eating, greens in their green smoothies,
Spinach.
yeah,
Yep.
Beans and nuts, they're going to be getting iron. Yeah.
So beans and nuts are very important.
So important for
children, it
kids.
sounds
Yeah,
like.
absolutely.
Now, lastly, let's talk about calcium.
Calcium.
So calcium's in, again, it's kind of like similar to protein in that it's
There's
in
a little bit in
a lot
everything.
of foods, in
Yeah.
almost every food, right? What are some of your favorite high quality, rich, dense calcium-based, or foods that have a lot of calcium in them?
So greens are great, but again, can be difficult to get into children, right?
Yeah.
Some of the nuts, almonds are good. Chia seed is really high in calcium. My son eats chia porridge almost every morning.
Yes.
He loves it.
Yes.
But to be honest, and this was an interesting question, she said she wanted to avoid fortified foods. And I would just be curious to talk to her about why. I love the fortified plant milks because they provide so much calcium, and
even things like B12 are often fortified in things like
and
milk
vitamin D.
cereals. Yeah.
All of these important things. Yeah, but the calcium, my son drinks a lot. We like oat milk, actually. That's my favorite because it's
Boxed oat milk.
the boxed oat milk. Yeah, you can buy it. It's a little bit more expensive, but I love it because like almond milk only has 1 gram of protein per serving, but oat milk has 4. So it's higher in protein. It's like much better than all of the other ones. And it's got double the calories, which is great for growing kids, right?
Yeah.
So my son needs calories. He does not ever stop moving. So he loves the oat milk, and since it's naturally sweet, they don't add sugar.
Nice.
So I'm a big fan of oat milk. If you don't want to do boxed foods because of the other, like carrageenan or the other stuff that might be in there, but you're not opposed to supplementation in general, you can make homemade milks and fortify them yourself. And I have a recipe for that on my blog. You can make like raw almond milk and then add calcium to it, and then you have fortified milk that didn't come out of a box, right?
Neat. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, so
There's some options there.
for sure.
Great, well-rounded perspective on it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder, I think we're just probably going to move. This probably might be like more of like an hour and a half talk. For
Yeah,
people,
well,
so.
yeah.
So thank you all for your patience. I hope you're enjoying it again. I've been taking a peek at some of your questions. Those need to be done at Google+. So google.com/+EcoVeganGal. You can ask them anytime, and we'll get to as many as we can. And as long as you don't mind this being on the longer side, we might try to answer a bunch of them. And there goes your chapstick. Yes, if you're asking questions on YouTube, if you're watching there, please move them over. And if you're watching the recorded version, I'll talk more about how to get your questions in later on. So thank you for your patience. I hope you're enjoying all of these perspectives. So the next question, we're going to take a step away from nutrition for a moment. And I love this question. I'm really curious how you're going to react to it. So username, this is a really hard username, but I think it's Mien Lee Houtlin. See, you'll have to let me know if you're watching, if I got that anywhere close. This person asked, I've been vegan for some weeks, so when my dad recently asked me whether I'd buy leather, I said no. But then he argued that animals are not killed for leather, but for the meat. So with leather, is there any way we don't actually support killing animals by buying leather? I will just say one thing. And I talked about this in an interview I did years ago with Sean Monson, who directed Earthlings. So I'll link to that down below.
I have that in my notes to watch Earthlings, yeah.
When I first went vegan, which was almost 11 years ago now, I did it mainly for health reasons. And as I was researching it, I started realizing all of the animal. And I kind of knew that there are animal sides to it. I mean, I knew, but I think when you're eating animal products, you just don't know that much, and we go through this whole form of avoidance. We don't really want to know, or nobody's talking about it around us. And again, 11 years ago, things were very different too. So when I was doing my research, I was vegan for maybe like 6 months, and I moved from Massachusetts. I was living in Boston out to California and Los Angeles. And within the first month that I was here, I was interning at this film production office, because I used to be in the film business, and one of the women there said, one of my friends just made a documentary starring Joaquin Phoenix. And I was like, Joaquin Phoenix? Is he going to be there? Like, she's like, I don't know, let's go. And so I'm going to this party. She said it was a vegan documentary. That's all I knew. And I went to this private screening of Earthlings right like before it was released, or yeah, way in the beginning. And I'll tell you, as in terms of leather, that's the most memorable part of this documentary. So I went from being a vegan for not only a year, but I still had leather shoes. I still had this great leather jacket that I loved. I don't know if I was buying leather, but I was still kind of using it and a little confused as to why I should give it up.
Right.
And Earthlings, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, Earthlings summed it all up for me.
Yeah.
So check out Earthlings, as you're going to talk about. We'll link to this documentary down below. And also, if the interview I did with the director, we talk about this as well. I do want to say real quick, since we are going to be talking about Earthlings, Earthlings is a challenging film to watch, but I really, really encourage everybody, vegan or not, to watch it. Also in this interview that I did with Sean, he said one of the most important things that has affected me personally and my whole career. He quoted this line: "We must not refuse with our eyes what the animals must endure with their bodies." And that has stuck with me deeply, more deeply than most things. Yeah. So many people don't want to see it. They say, "I know already." For me, watching the animals go through these horrific things, it's not like some sadistic, like, I enjoy, like bearing witness. It's more that I have an opportunity to really remind myself why I'm vegan, to feel deeper about my compassion, to feel more driven to spread the word. It's not about feeling angry or sad for me. When I see something like Earthlings and similar documentaries, I'm trying to grow more love. And we'll talk more about this, love, positive vibes versus negative, hateful vibes. For me, I really encourage all of you to think about that and stop turning your eyes away from these things. These animals have suffered because of our collective decisions as humans, and we need to have that knowledge. We need to have those reminders. They will strengthen you. They will make you more. They can make you more loving and more compassionate and more compelled and driven. So that is my perspective, like with leather, seeing what actually happens to these animals. I can never wear leather again. Right. And purely for education, that's why it's important to watch films like, because if you watch Earthlings, you do learn about the leather industry. Sure. Recently, Blackfish just got released, and my boyfriend has been vegan for 18 years, and he's like, I don't need to see that movie. It's sad. I know what happens. It's more about I don't want to see it versus I don't need to say it. Because it's painful. Yeah. It hurts to see animals being hurt, right? Yeah. But I got him to watch it with me, and afterwards he was like, I'm so glad, because I knew that SeaWorld was bad, but I wouldn't have been able to have a conversation with someone about why. Yes, exactly. And so now he feels armed with this information and these facts, right? Yeah. So he really understands the issue. Because I think we'll see, like, many vegans have seen at least a few little clips, and they say, that's all I need to see. Another movie was Skin Trade. Did you ever see that? I didn't see that one. That's a really hard movie to watch. It's all about, like, fur. Yeah. And it's horrific. But I insist, I've forced myself to watch and never shut my eyes or turn away. I forced myself to watch it because I will never get those images out of my head. And just like you said, I learned so much, and I got to see exactly what's happening. Yeah. I'm not just someone saying, oh, fur is bad. Right. I know exactly what happens to these animals, and that has strengthened my personal side of it, but also the movement. So I think, in a way, it's actually incredibly selfish to not watch these documentaries. Like, I feel so strongly about this, and people disagree, and I respect you if you disagree, but I also encourage you to really just say, I'm not going to be selfish. I'm going to watch this. I'm going to make it through it. For the animals. I'm going to do it for the animals and understand how fur is made, how leather is made, so that I can talk about it. Yeah. And not just looking at, oh, it's bad, but why is it bad? Right. What is happening? So what can you add to the leather? So for leather, so a lot of the leather that's coming out of America is coming out of beef slaughterhouses. So they do double up in that way. But what we have to remember is that the leather is worth a lot more than the meat.
So buying that leather is what makes these slaughterhouses profitable. They're relying on that, right? And so you're supporting the industry that allows the consumption of leather and meat. You know, they're coupled. But that's only in America, and the vast majority of leather in the world is coming out of the third world, the developing world, mostly out of India and a lot out of China. They don't have the same sort of animal, the animal laws here aren't great, but they're better than nothing. Yeah. So those animals are not being used for food. And if you see images of them, you can see that they're not being used for food. They're skin and bones. They're scrawny. They're not fed. They're not cared for. They're only being born and then raised for their skin, so they don't care about the welfare of the animal at all. And I won't go into the details of what they do to those animals, but it is truly horrific and so sad. That's the majority of the leather industry. It's not for food, and it's definitely not a byproduct of the food industry. This is highly
not humane.
It's highly profitable, lucrative business. The other thing I wanted to bring up about leather has nothing to do with the animals and everything to do with the environment.
Oh yeah.
I think that there's this perception that leather is like natural or something. Like we have this like Little House on the Prairie idea of like skins on a fence or something, like drying in the sun. Yeah. That is not what's happening. Like when you walk into like a Nordstrom's or a department store and you see walls and walls and walls of purses that are all different colors, and like you have to think about how that happened. The leather industry, the curing, the tanning, and then the dye, the chemicals that are used in the production of leather are carcinogenic, they're toxic, they're going into our water, they're going into our air. I mean, leather is a really big environmental problem. So that's a whole other reason to avoid leather.
Yeah, and actually to that note, the last thing I'll add is, I remember when I was newly vegan, I was talking about this, and my friend said, well, the vegan alternatives are just as bad. And it's actually a good thing to think about. I do just want to add the note that when you are buying alternatives to things like leather, look for the most eco-friendly option.
Absolutely.
And be willing to spend or find a way to spend the extra money for high quality. Women have all been there. Sometimes we need the right shoes for the right event, and we go and buy the man-made materials. They're $20, and it's like I've done that plenty of times, but consciously I try my best to buy eco-vegan shoes, and there are actually companies out there that label themselves as eco-vegan.
Yeah.
I've mentioned them in a past video, which I'll link below. There are a variety of companies out there that are vegan and eco-friendly for men and for women. There's some great vegan shoe companies like Moo Shoes, which, by the way, is now
coming to LA,
and is in New York. There's a great vegan shoe store in Boston. There's so many options for us, but this comes down to any type of leather alternative. So bags, coats, shoes. Really look to the sustainability side, because the man-made stuff is just as equally chemical.
Yeah. And well, in the past it has been. There's been huge leaps in being made in that realm.
Sure.
And, Joshua Catcher out of New York, his website is Brave Gentleman, and he's doing amazing stuff with new eco textiles.
Exactly.
And really cool
and they're
stuff.
Expensive. However, for men usually just need one pair of dress shoes.
Right. They're not going to go out of style.
Right. Yeah. So you spend $100, maybe $150 to $200, but those shoes will probably last you 10 years.
Totally.
When you're grown and your shoe size hasn't changed. And for women, I really have the same 3 fancy shoes. I've black and a couple colors.
Right.
And I'm going to wear them over and over again. So save up your money and invest in something that's not only less harmful for the animals, but less harmful for the environment.
And then also secondhand.
Oh, secondhand.
I mean, I've bought almost exclusively secondhand for the last 5 years. I made a vow in 2008, and I've been pretty consistent since then. But with the internet now, it's so easy to shop secondhand, with Etsy, and Poshmark is a great site where people are selling their own clothes. Okay. So you're shopping other people's closets. It's basically like a big naked lady party, if you've ever done that.
Clothing swap.
Clothing swap, So
asking your friends, hey, do you have any shoes that you no longer wear? We all have that. I mean, you could come into my closet if we were the same shoe size, and I'd be like, I'm not wearing those pairs, So online, we've talked about this before, places like Buffalo Exchange and Crossroads in the United States.
So good.
Anybody who's outside of the United States or in smaller towns, leave comments letting us know where your favorite places to shop, either online or in specific areas of the world. I think in clothing swaps, another reason to build a community. They don't have to be, I mean, having vegan friends is great, but sometimes people that aren't vegan still have vegan clothing and fashion and stuff. All right, let's move on to the last prepared question, and we're going to get into your live questions. So this kind of falls into something we've already talked about, so we could probably give this a short answer. Heather asked, how do you make sure you're getting all your vitamins and minerals? Do you get your blood drawn at the doctor? I've recently gone vegetarian with plans of going vegan soon. I was feeling really great for a while, but now I'm starting to feel really tired and worn down all the time. I'm concerned I may have an iron deficiency. I have plans to go to the doctor soon, but I was just wondering how you make sure you're getting enough of everything you need in your diet. So this is evolving from children to adults. Right. I do want to say, I should have said this at the beginning, that I'm not a doctor. I don't believe you have a doctor's degree. No, definitely not. She is, as you know, a wealth of information. She's a certified life coach. She's got a big background of things. But I always say, you know, we're giving information based on personal experience and research that does not replace the opinion of a doctor. Absolutely. And we're not also trying to figure out specific, we're talking very generally. So even though Heather has given us details, we're kind of answering this to give you a jumping off point. Right. And that way, when you go to the doctor or when you go, you know, doing your own research and figuring it out for yourself, you have a little bit more information. Right. So
now Heather said she had gone vegetarian, not vegan, right?
Yeah, she said she recently went vegetarian and plans to go vegan. But sounds like she's a little concerned because of the iron deficiency, or
she's feeling fatigued, right? So the first thing that jumped out at me, the first big red flag, going vegetarian or vegan and feeling fatigued, is just calories. Like, you just have to check your calories. Animal food is incredibly calorie dense, whereas plant food is incredibly nutrient dense, but calorie light, right? So there's all this fiber that isn't in animal food. So there's all this roughage that just goes through us undigested. It doesn't add energetically, right? So plant food, you can eat like a giant salad for lunch, and unless you've put, you know, some fat and some protein on there, it's like 100 calories, right? Yeah, so you feel really full in your belly, but you're not actually getting your energetic needs met. And so that would be my first thing, just to make sure, you know, look at how your diet has changed going from omnivore to vegetarian, and just make sure that you're meeting your calorie needs, your basic calorie needs. Yes. I was talking about this with my boyfriend this morning, and he actually thought the exact opposite. So he went omnivore to vegetarian, and he basically became a dairytarian, is what he said. So he was cheese pizza, mac and cheese, fettuccine alfredo, like everything was dairy, dairy, dairy. And he said he had that exact same experience. He went vegetarian and became very sluggish, because he was completely clogged up on dairy. So I don't know what Heather is eating, whether maybe she's not eating enough calories, or maybe she's eating too much dairy, which is the opposite problem. But just kind of look at the way your diet has changed, right, and what might be causing this.
I think that that's another reason that I always recommend to have a wide variety of whole foods. Right. So we've talked about beans and nuts and greens, and adding your fruits and your grains, your gluten-free grains if you're gluten-free. Just having that's for me how I feel my best. Totally. It's like, the cats are funny. It's like I try to have new things all of the time, and just when I'm feeling tired, I immediately start to think about the foods, right? It's not like I jump to coffee, which is a lot of think people do. It's coffee. They have to have coffee in the morning. They have to, you know, they're so dependent on coffee to get them through their energy. When really our diet is like the best form of energy. Of course, you can have lighter options and higher quality coffees and all of that. But another thing we can add too is we don't know also what Heather's overall lifestyle is. She might not be getting enough sleep. Absolutely. You know, she might be working out too much and not eating enough calories. Stress. She could be stressed out. Stress is the biggest one, man. I think a lot of people blame veganism or vegetarianism for their feelings, when it's not about the diet, it's about your whole lifestyle and the specific foods. We have plenty of what have been labeled junk food vegans, who are people that are eating processed foods all the time, and French fries. There's so many foods that are considered vegan, but they don't have any nutrients. They might be all calories, but the calories are like processed, and you have that spike, the blood sugar spike, and then it drops. Whereas if you're eating whole foods, you have a nice natural, slow rise energy that's sustainable.
Absolutely.
And you can still have your French fries and your packaged foods every once in a while, but if the majority of your foods are coming from, like you said, these nutrient-packed sources like beans and nuts, grains, and vegetables, or even fruits are fantastic.
Right.
You should feel good.
Right.
Otherwise, you would need the help of a doctor, I would think.
Yeah.
Maybe
so if you're not
specifically going on.
Right. So if you've changed your diet and you know that you're not eating too much dairy or heavy foods that are making you feel bogged down, and you know that you are eating enough calories, and your diet seems like pretty good, and you're feeling fatigued, I would seek out a vegan-friendly health practitioner. I think she asked about blood.
Yeah. Well, I think this also comes back around to what you were saying too. What was your experience when you started feeling the way you were feeling?
Feeling sick?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
what was your diet like at that? Were you like examining it and still feeling unsure, or now that you look back, do you think you weren't eating properly?
Now that I look back, I know that I was not eating properly for my body. Mm-hmm. I was eating the way that everyone on the internet told me I should be eating. I was over-restricting, which I see a lot of vegans do. I had cut out all kinds of entire food groups, in a quest for optimal health. That was not nourishing to me and my body.
So with the help of a doctor and maybe a nutritionist.
But you have to be careful what doctor you go to. Yes. I mean, I went to an MD and they were like, meh, like new mom stuff. Totally blew me off, right?
Yeah.
I went to, my father is an acupuncturist. I went to him and he was like, you need to eat meat.
Yeah.
Your chi is weak, you need to. So like Chinese medicine, unfortunately, is very big on animal products, and that became a whole point of contention between me and my father. I finally found a naturopath who was able to help me. She was vegan-friendly-ish, was open to working with me, and was able to help me get better with blood testing. I would say a nutritionist, a registered dietitian, or a naturopath are kind of the best route to go. And we're really lucky, there are a lot of vegan health professionals that make themselves available out there on the internet.
Yes, you can do Skype, Google Plus, like consultations online.
And they've said, like, when like a public figure goes ex-vegan, a lot of times these people will say, like, why didn't they come to me? I would have helped them if they had just asked for help. So Matt Rosigno at True Love Health is great. Ginny Messina at the Vegan RD. Jack Norris, Jenna Hamshaw at Choosing Raw. These are all vegan health professionals who are willing to work with people who are having problems and can really help. I'm going to grab my chapstick from her.
Taking over her chapstick. So, okay, we'll link to those people down below. I think ultimately it's making sure that you're eating a wide variety of food, figuring out what works best for your body.
Right.
And as far as blood drawing goes,
I have feelings about blood.
Well, I'd love to hear them. Just a quick answer for me. I've had my blood drawn 2 years ago now, and they had nothing to say to me. They were like, okay, you're fine.
And wasn't that valuable for you?
Yeah.
For your own peace of mind?
I was actually surprised. At the time, I was also experimenting with 80-10-10 fruitarian, so my diet was very quote-unquote restricted. I was eating lots of fruits and vegetables and like no beans, or a little bit of nuts. Like, it's a generally restricted diet, but I was eating I had so many nutrients. And I went in there and I was like, oh, there's going to be something with 80-10-10, and she had nothing. She was, even when I told her how I was eating, she was like, okay.
You look great. Yeah.
But she was also a great doctor. I seeked her out because she had a background in Western and Eastern medicine.
Right.
And what she did was she combined it. So she always started with more of a holistic, natural approach. And if necessary, she would add more of a Western approach. And that, to me, is a great doctor because they know both.
Right.
It's like with an acupuncturist or the Chinese medicine, they're just thinking from that one philosophy.
Yes.
But if you have multiple philosophies, which you might need from multiple people, you're going to have a much bigger picture painted.
Yeah. That's a good point.
What is your perspective on blood drawing?
Right. So, should you get your blood drawn?
Do you want some more water?
I do. I would love some more water. Thank you.
I'll let her answer that.
So, I think if you have the means and the ability, if you have health insurance, if you're in a financial position to get your blood drawn, awesome, do it. Like, why not? I think you can only win by getting your blood drawn. Like Whitney was saying, one of two things can happen. Either your blood is going to come back and it's going to be, let's say you have a deficiency. Well, now you know. Now you know what your deficiency is, and you can correct it. You can make the change, and you'll feel better. There's nothing bad about that, right? Or B, you'll get your blood back and they'll be like, you're so healthy. And you can be like, yeah, I'm so healthy. Like, my diet is working. And like, now when people come at you, if they want to like question you about being vegan, you can be like, my blood is beautiful. And like, you know, it's a really powerful tool for your own peace of mind and also for your activism.
Yes. Absolutely.
So I think.
Now, when you said you had a strong opinion on it, is that meaning that you really think people should get their blood drawn?
No, I think, so this is the thing. I think that if you have the means to get your blood drawn, like, have at it. If you don't have the means, and a lot of people don't have health insurance, they don't have, you know, getting a full blood workup done is expensive.
Well, it can be like a couple $100s.
Right, which could be prohibitively expensive for some people, depending on, you know, your situation. I don't want people to feel like they have to get their blood drawn in order to know that they're healthy. If you feel fine, you don't necessarily need to get your blood drawn. You know, if you can't afford it, I don't want people to feel like I'm doing it wrong, like this pressure.
Well, I do want to say, though, I don't believe in this. I'm a huge, one of my big things right now is getting people away from saying I can't afford it. Because most of us, if you're watching this video, you have internet, you have a computer, like, most of us have a lot more money than we realize. And this is not about rich versus, like, poor. You know, if you're watching this, I'm guessing that you have a certain more money than you realize, right? You can save up for these things. You can cut out your favorite food for a few weeks, or like if you're really into drinking coffee. And so many people go to Starbucks every day and they pay $5 every single day. Yeah. Isn't your blood more important than that? I mean, it comes down to priorities. And we just shave off a few expenses every week. We could save up for a $200 blood visit. And to me, if that's happening once a year, once every couple years, just make a little like piggy bank or put a few dollars in whenever you have them. Make a savings account. If you don't have health insurance costs most people at least $100 a month. So 2 months of not having health insurance would pay for the average blood test. And you can also go to clinics. So there's a way.
It's a really good point. And when I was sick, even I felt like I didn't have the money to go seek out a health practitioner and get my blood drawn. It just seemed like this impossible thing.
Yeah.
And I waited too long. And when I did it, I got my blood panel back, and it was like, oh, this, and this. And I changed, and it was like within a week or two, I was already feeling better, and it was like, why did I wait so long, you know?
And you may have spent a ton of money on like unnecessary supplements or unnecessary food.
Stress relievers, because I was so anxious, and
a lot of us are ignoring those things.
It's true. It's a good point.
Supplement can be $30 alone. You know, again, that's like almost a fourth of blood drawn. So we just have to shift our mentality about where we're putting our money, and go. And just prioritize and really be conscious, because there's a way.
It's true.
There's a way to make it happen.
So getting a blood draw is, the only way to really get a look at what's going on inside your body. You know, what you eat doesn't necessarily translate to what you're absorbing. You know, you could have malabsorption issues. So there could be stuff going on that you could have the perfect diet and still be deficient because of your own body chemistry or some underlying illness that you don't know about. So getting blood is really valuable.
Yeah. I love hearing that from you.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing. I mean, I'm with you, like $200 in blood drawn at this moment. I'm like, I'd rather go buy myself an amazing meal. But, you know, it's something worth saving up for. So.
Yeah.
I don't know, do you know how frequently you should get your blood drawn? Is there a recommended?
I think, you know, it depends on your health. Like, if you get your blood drawn and you have deficiencies, then you're going to need to get it drawn again more regularly to make sure that those are correcting. Mm-hmm. If you are healthy and, you know, it all looks good, I would say every couple of years.
Okay. And you can save up, you know, every month, just put $5 aside or 10 or whatever, and you'll have the money in no time. I'm going to start a blood drawing savings.
I'm going to do the same thing.
Okay, well, thank you all for watching and being patient. Now we're going to jump into live questions. I already saw there were a bunch.
Oh.
I'm going to scan them and see if we can group some together, because we've already gone beyond our hour, and we're verging on an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Time flies. So anybody who's watching live who wants to ask your questions now, go to google.com/+ecovegangal, find this event page. I will not see if it's on YouTube. And there's also a link on my Facebook, as well as Sayward's, on Twitter, and on our blog. So if you need to find it, it'll be available there. Okay. So let's start. Ooh, this is a good one. I don't know if this will be one that you'll want to answer, but Jen asked, any tips for planning an eco-friendly vegan wedding? I'm currently working with a vegan chef for the meal part and wondering if you have any tips for making other parts of the wedding earth-friendly. So Jen, a really great resource for this is, I believe it's still called, I think they changed the name to Vegan Weddings HQ. Kristen Lajeunesse launched this, but I think she passed the project on to someone else. It used to be called Rose Petals Vegan Weddings. So if you do a search for it, it is such a cool resource. It's all about vegan weddings. There's now an ebook for it about how to plan your wedding. It's phenomenal. It doesn't necessarily have the eco slant.
Right.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there are other books out there. If there are, I will link to them. There are some cool things like Deborah Lindquist makes like eco-friendly wedding dresses. They're expensive, but again, worth it. There's another cool site where you can get second-hand wedding dresses, which I think is an amazing thing.
My wedding dress was second-hand, yeah.
I mean, again, like you can go traditional, or you can get like go to a store and just find a beautiful white dress or any color dress. Do you have, since you've been married?
Yeah.
And maybe getting married again in the future.
Maybe.
Did you do anything like eco-friendly, eco-vegan?
So I was not vegan when I got married, so that was unfortunately not a part of my experience there. Eco-friendly stuff, I'm having trouble off the top of my head coming up with anything. I know there was a blogger, Chef Amber Shea, who did a whole vegan wedding. She's actually an ex-vegan now, but she was vegan at the time of her wedding, and she blogged all about it. And I mean, that alone would still be a good resource for doing that. She carried a bunch of kale down the aisle. It was really cute.
And actually, Veg News used to have an issue.
Every
year for vegan weddings. So if you go to Veg News and just type Veg News vegan wedding, I remember there were definitely eco-vegan sections in there, things like the carrying the kale and getting really creative. So this is something that I might have to look into and it
would be fun to research. To look into it.
Well, when I get married, I'm gonna have an eco-vegan wedding.
Of course.
And document it all. So you might just have to wait a little while, Jen. But I think just doing a little bit of research online, just try typing in eco-vegan wedding, green wedding. You might need to combine green philosophies with vegan philosophies. But my guess is that most of the green tips are not going to be about animal products. They're going to be about like recycle this and like making your own that. And
I mean, it really goes with kind of what's trending in weddings right now is that sort of like rustic down home look. You can do so much like upcycled, mason jars for cups and all that kind of stuff, which is so cute and really popular right now. I'm sure you could get your bridesmaids to all do secondhand dresses, if you phrased it the right way, all that kind of stuff. Just cutting those little corners here and there. I'm even wondering if there's some sort of like ask your guests to do like a carbon offset for their travel, like a donation instead of a wedding gift or something like that.
Yep. Lots of creative ways.
Make your honeymoon one of the eco-tourism honeymoon kind of things.
Stay at an eco-friendly hotel.
Yeah.
And if you just look into green parties too, a party is going to, a nice party can have the same sort of feeling to it. So you can combine a few things together. But I'll link to what I can in the description field within the next few days. All right. So Casey, just wondering how to handle raising vegan children and not having vegan grandparents who take care of them. It's difficult when family always wants to take care of kids, but what if they do not understand it at all?
Okay.
Now, your father, you were saying, right?
Yes.
He does acupuncture?
He does acupuncture. He's an omnivore. He was a vegetarian for 20-something years and unfortunately has gone back to eating meat now.
Oh, he's one of the 75%.
He's one of the 75%. Veganism is a huge part of my life. It's my career. It's my passion. I talk about it constantly. So anyone who's close to me knows that veganism is very important to me. And so my dad and my godparents know when they're taking care of my son that he only eats vegan. That's not an issue. But I have talked to a lot of other parents who they've even suspected that their parents, the kids' grandparents, are, feeding them non-vegan food against their wishes. I can see how that could happen, well-meaning grandparents concerned, not understanding. For me, that is a line in the sand. I mean, I would just make it very clear, if this happens, you cannot watch my child anymore. That just is. And that's respecting my parenting choices, respecting me as a mother and me as a person. Like, you need to, you know. So for me, that's very clear. But I don't know that you're saying that's what's happening. I don't know that maybe you could just sit down with them and like have a talk and try and educate them about why you believe what you believe, why you think it's important for your child to eat that way, and then I would say help them, you know, bring snacks so they don't have to think about it. You know, bring peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for everyone, bring hummus and chips and veggies, and you know, send your kid everywhere they go with their food already so that the people around them aren't responsible for feeding them necessarily.
Great idea. And I think it falls into the same category as any time we're socializing with non-vegans. It's making it seem fun and easy, and food tastes good. And I like the idea of like bringing something and not even saying, just say, hey, I brought some for everyone. Like, not being like, you should eat this too, but like, hey, there's enough if you want to try some if you get hungry. You never know. I mean, the kids could end up impacting their grandparents even more than their children. So who knows? I think as long as it's handled with like a positive but yet stern, because I think positivity needs to be handled also with confidence and like very clear setting boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to persuade you to be vegan, but this is how I choose to live my life and how I'm raising my child.
Right. And I think, I mean, you could apply it to other issues, like I don't believe in corporal punishment. I will never hit my kid. And if I left my kid with my parent and they believe in corporal punishment and they hit my kid, I don't think anyone would have a problem with saying like, no, you don't do that to my child. And I think this is the same thing. It's just, you know, this is the way that you've chosen to parent, and they need to respect that.
I think it's an evolution too. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
I think that the biggest thing I see is parents kind of get into like a bullying mode sometimes where they'll tease a lot. It's like, oh, you vegans. Like, and that's a horrible example for kids.
Kids are so sensitive to that. They internalize that, that
I think
shame.
You might even want to have that conversation, say, I mean, you could even like use the kid as a way like, hey, you know, when you say these things, they're going to impact how my child feels about veganism and how they feel about you, and you know, you're disrupting their whole mentality around how you treat me, and that's setting a bad example. So maybe using that as a way for the grandparents to understand that it's just even in the communication, that alone, no matter what the topic is, like you said, like whether they're spanking or something,
right.
If they're having two conflicting perspectives and there's fighting, nobody wants that around their children.
Right.
So I think it's also important to have these conversations away from the kid.
Definitely.
And if the grandparents start to get teasing, that's like a no teasing, bullying zone, because nobody wants their kids to grow up to be bullies either. Right?
Or to be victims. To be bullied.
So I think turning around in that way could also be an interesting way to steer the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so username Pale Black said, I'm relatively new and am getting so fat because I now rely on carbs to feel full. What can I eat instead of endless chips?
Yeah.
Oh, her name is Sarah and she's in Sydney. Hi to Australia.
Do you want to grab? I'm going to grab a little bit more water. You can answer this first.
It's hot in here. LA right now. So this one. Well, we've talked about this a lot, Sarah. If you didn't have a chance to watch the beginning part of this video, I invite you to watch the recording to talk about all the different foods. We talked about great breakfast foods today. We talked about the importance of eating a variety of foods such as beans and nuts, grains, legumes, greens, and fruit. I think I'm always encouraging people to get away from processed foods because they're calorie dense but nutrient poor typically. So chips. Potatoes are phenomenal on their own. You have a baked potato or you add potatoes to various dishes. They can still be pretty nutrient dense, especially when paired with other foods and not a ton of oil and salt and all of that. I had an amazing potato dish last night. I made scalloped potatoes with kohlrabi and dill and a little bit of coconut oil. It was so magical. And I think that if you like chips, like I do, I love potatoes, I actually find more satisfaction from eating potatoes in their whole form, as opposed to those that have been cut up, doused in oil and salt and whatever else, and then like put in a bag, you know, you're really just getting flavor.
Yeah.
So that can definitely contribute to weight gain because you're eating just calories. You're not getting the nutrients. And a lot of these foods don't satiate us. They just make, you know, our tongue and give us our tongue pleasure, but like the rest of our body has no benefit for it. So the last thing I'll say there is if you do love chips, and I do too, but I only have like potato chips or any forms of chips a few times a month maximum. You can pair them with other things or have get smaller bags of them so you don't eat as much. Like my favorite thing right now is the Beanfields chips.
Oh yeah, those are great.
They have a ranch version.
The new ranch, yeah.
And I'll get a big bag of it and I'll eat it in one sitting, but it actually fills me up because they're made from beans.
Yeah.
They still are processed and, you know, they have a lot of additives, but they're generally very clean ingredients. Those fill me up, and I'll consider that like half of my meal.
Yeah.
And if you eat them with like guacamole,
green juice.
or you have a green juice before or after, and and you're not like eating them in addition to a ton of other foods,
right.
I think that's good. But I've also realized that I need to get smaller bags or put a bag aside and only put a few in a bowl and make sure that they're part of full-on meals that are satisfying to me so that I'm not overeating the processed foods.
Yeah.
Any other input there?
Yeah. So I hear you talking about relying a lot on carbs to feel full, and I think a lot of people get caught in this carb cycle. This is something that a lot of my clients comes up with them. They eat a carb-heavy breakfast, so they feel full, and then carbs, no matter what carbs, are going to elevate your blood sugar.
Well, I want to pause for a second to clarify about carbs, because there's a difference between high-quality carbs,
right.
low-quality, processed versus non-processed.
Simple and complex.
Fruit are still carbs, right? I mean, it's also
kale
about
is a carb.
Whole foods versus processed foods. So I think most people refer to carbs as the processed carbs, like the baked goods, the breads.
Right.
And they're not all created equally. You can still get high-quality bread.
Oh, totally.
Right?
But if it's the only thing you're eating, it can begin to mess with your blood sugar because it is going to elevate your blood sugar. And what happens is your blood sugar crashes, and then you go, oh my God, I'm so hungry all of a sudden, and the craving that you get is more carbs. Yeah. So when you're eating a lot of carbs, you crave a lot of carbs, and you get kind of caught in this carb cycle. Kind of what we talked about earlier is needing that protein and fat and making sure that the meals that you're eating are well-rounded. I have a post that went up pretty recently on my blog called The Science of Salad, and I talk about how I make a salad for lunch every day and all of the different kind of components and the things that I think about when making a salad. And I make a salad that is a meal. I mean, this is not just a pile of lettuce. This has got like so much awesome stuff and lots of protein and lots of healthy, nourishing fats that makes me feel full all the way until dinner. I don't carb crash because of it. So I think when you're putting your meals together, just thinking about making sure that you're hitting all of the macronutrients. And if you're craving chips, like you said, some beans and some guacamole with them is going to add exactly that, protein and fat. So yeah. There you go.
We've got a few comments here that we'll just read out loud to respect everyone's perspectives. Actually, and this one is a two-parter. Okay, the first, it's from Wizard of Raw. My question is, why are people so worried about protein? Protein is not even usable by our body unless broken down to simple form amino acids. Protein is hard for our body to break down. The most simple source of amino acids is fruit and vegetable. And then there was a secondary comment. Sayward seems really stuck on this protein myth for some reason and someone feeling full. She has said protein at least 20 times already. Protein is unusable by the body until broken down. So I do want to say that these are our opinions. I'm going to read another comment as well that relates to this. We're just offering our opinions on these, and I think that we're aiming to respect everybody, and we hope that you will respect us and our opinions and our differences. So
I'm not bothered by those kinds of comments. I am used to being a contrarian. Like I said, the whole vegan community is saying this one thing, and I'm like, wait, but actually, and I totally understand that I'm saying something that's not popular to say. It's not what people want to necessarily hear right now. The message that we get from the entire vegan community is you don't have to worry about protein, you don't have to worry about protein, don't worry about protein. The line is, if you're eating enough calories, you'll get enough protein. I can speak only from my own personal experience. When I got sick, I didn't say this earlier, but I was deficient in protein. That was one of the main things that happened to me. I didn't have kwashiorkor, which is like the actual protein deficiency where you get like the big bloated belly that you see in like starving countries, the children, you know. I didn't have that, but you can become depleted in protein without developing a full-on protein deficiency, and I was depleted in protein. So that's my own personal experience. I've worked with a lot of clients in my coaching practice. Every single one of them has seen a gain in energy and in quality of life by just mindfully adding a little bit more vegan protein into their diet. I think that a lot of people are not, we're told over and over again that we don't have to worry about it, and so people are eating, like this last person, a lot of carbs, and we're not getting, it's not that you're not getting enough protein like you're going to develop kwashiorkor, but you can feel better by adding a little bit more protein. It's more optimally healthy to have enough of those, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I am harping on it. That's kind of what this video is, you know, that's what we're talking about here today. It's definitely not the only thing I talk about, but yeah, I want to be a voice out there saying, like, some people do need to be thinking about their protein, and that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with veganism, or that doesn't mean, you know, and everyone's different, but I do a lot of work with children and a lot of work with ex-vegans, and I've seen protein come up. You know, like I'm drawing from what I've seen. I'm not projecting onto those groups, mm-hmm. right? So my opinion is based on the research that I've done, not the other way around.
Yeah,
Fair so enough. That's where I'm coming from, yeah.
Thank you for the question there. Maureen also, she said, I'm very well informed and choose not to watch videos like Earthlings. There are other ways to educate yourself, including reading material without watching. Respecting someone's view would not include labeling them selfish. I feel very strongly about this, Maureen, clearly. And when I use the word selfish, it's not, I think our vocabulary can trigger us in so many different ways. When someone calls me selfish, it causes me to really think about what I'm doing. It's a little bit of a trigger word, but it triggers me in a positive way. So I'm sorry if the word selfish triggers you in a negative way. That's never my intention, to trigger people to feel bad about themselves. It's never my intention to judge people. I do try my best to respect everybody's opinions on it. When I use the word selfish, I mean that I think that we really need, part of my philosophy is to consider everyone else and every living creature. And that means how we respond to one another, but also what we're choosing. I honestly feel like, Maureen, based on my conversations, again, all of this is drawn from my personal experience, a lot of people say they don't want to watch it because they already know. And as we said, we both know that from our personal experiences and from people we know, they will watch these documentaries and learn new things. So you really can't say you know something without experiencing it. You have to experience it in order to know it. That's just the way things work. If somebody chooses not to watch Earthlings or similar material, I respect choices. I think, though, that it's worth considering why you choose not to watch it, and how can you benefit from just changing your perspective. Plenty of people say, I know that animals suffer, but I choose to eat meat. I personally think that's a selfish thing. You're harming other animals in order to have what you want. Now, of course, it's quite different when it comes to a documentary. When you choose not to watch something, you're not harming the animals any further necessarily. But I just keep coming back to that point that Sean Monson said, that we must not refuse with our eyes what they must endure with their body. Part of compassion to me is knowing what other people are experiencing. Once you know how an animal's eyes look when they're being slaughtered, which is something you'll never forget. And to me, I know, when I watch those things, it's almost as if I was there myself. And that personally pushes me to go much farther. So all I'm saying is really, really consider it before you make your decision. And you can always change your mind. But I still personally believe that it's a little bit of a selfish thing to make that decision because you're saying it's too hard for me, but it's really hard for the animals, and if you can be another person who can advocate for the animals because of what you've seen, perhaps you might be an even stronger person from the animal advocacy perspective. But again, Maureen, this has nothing to do with you personally. I respect whatever choice you make. This is just simply my opinion. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think you said it beautifully. Yeah.
Okay, and I mean, listen, we're not always going to agree with each other. And actually, we meant to talk about this today. When Sayward got here before we did this video, we were talking about how people respond to one another. And unfortunately, there is a lot of judgment, even within communities like veganism, towards other vegans, towards non-vegans, and
ex-vegans.
We have to be, or it's not about having to be. I personally choose to live by being as respectful as other people as possible while still holding on to what I believe in. So yes, I will be very strong about some points, but I try to say it, and I'm not always perfect at this, but I always aim to say it in a compassionate, non-judgmental point while still getting my word across. I think this could be a whole other video since we're running over, but if each of us were to really think about the way that we say things and how they're going to affect other people and apologize or clarify when we might hurt someone's feelings, I feel like that makes our message that much stronger.
Right.
If we're not, shaming somebody or bullying somebody or using hard words, we have to remember that there are people on the other side.
Yeah.
Just as Maureen reminding me that there's some people that might take the word selfish and it might be a trigger for them. Mm-hmm. But the last thing I'll say about that is we also can't censor ourselves too much. I personally choose to use the word selfish. I can switch it to other words, but I might never find a word to convey that word. Sometimes we get too sensitive to other people, and that censors us, so we can't even say what we want to say because we're concerned about how the other people are going to take it.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing. It's a balancing act of figuring out what you strongly feel and how to communicate that with other people.
And not just how to communicate it to say what you want to say, but to further the end that you're actually trying to further. Like, what is the actual goal of speaking these words? Like, when we're talking about judgment in the vegan community, most of us are vegan for the animals. And if our goal is to truly help animals, to save animals' lives, is it really in our best interest to cast judgment and to say things that make people feel judged? It might make us feel better, like, yeah, I got him,
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, I'm better than that, or whatever it is, why you're speaking from that place. But nobody responds well to judgment. Nobody feels good when they've been shamed or judged, and they're not going to blame you as much as vegans and veganism, and they're going to say, this makes me feel bad, so I want to distance myself from it.
Yes.
Right?
Or even within the vegan community, we have fat shaming, we have
so much. We
have dietary choices shaming, we have conversations like this about, do you watch Earthlings or don't you watch Earthlings? I mean, these it's never my intention, and I hope that other people don't make it their intention to polarize each other.
Right.
Nor should we be so focused on being right or wrong. That's why I like to use the words, this is my opinion.
Right.
And I respect your choices.
I statements.
Yeah.
I feel in my experience.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just a whole psychological thing. Instead of saying, you should do this, even the word should is an iffy word that I try not to use. It's, I believe this. This is how I choose to live.
Right.
And having conversations. Maureen, I fully respect that. And maybe I would love to hear more about why you personally choose not to watch Earthlings. Like, having conversations. Hey, that's not how I live, but why do you choose that? We can understand each other so much better when we see what the other person's going through and why.
And same with the protein thing. I can only say, in my experience, from what I've seen from all of my clients and what I've seen from talking to all these ex-vegans, this is something that's happening. So I will be the person to talk about it, since nobody else is, because I want to prevent ex-vegans. That is my goal, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I can only speak from what I have seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. So Rosie asked, what do you think about coffee? You can both give quick feelings about this. I think Rosie put in parentheses organic fair trade. I think if people are going to choose to drink coffee, I hope that it will be organic fair trade, shade grown, buying from companies that really have sustainable methods, and companies that are using options for people. So like alternatives to all the sugar that we put in coffee, like stevia, you're seeing more in coffee shops, which is awesome. Also offering things like the soy milk and the almond milk and the rice milks. Like, I support businesses, and every once in a while, actually, I don't usually buy coffee. It's just not, I'm much more of a tea lover, personally, but they kind of go hand in hand. I think if you're buying coffee and drinking it in a moderate amount and getting it from good sources, one great coffee that health enthusiasts are all about is called bulletproof coffee, and it's an alkaline coffee. Coffee is very acidic, so it can cause some health issues. Bulletproof is on the pricier side, but if you're looking for like the high quality every once in a while coffee experience, or you want to put your money towards having coffee like that on a regular basis, that's an option. Ultimately, I feel like in a general sense, people over-drink coffee. It boils my blood a little to hear, I need my coffee every morning, or I had 3 cups of coffee today. Because so many people are getting it from poor quality sources. They're depending on it for their energy. Yeah. And as we discussed earlier in this talk, we can get our energy from high quality foods, from feeling less stressed, from getting more sleep. If coffee is something you have maybe a couple times a week, that's one thing, but drinking like 3 cups a day, to me, is a waste of energy. I'm sorry, a waste of money. It's ignoring the problem that why your energy is low in the first place.
Yeah.
How about you?
So I differ a little bit. I think coffee is delicious.
It is delicious. I agree with that.
I do try and limit my coffee, and if you follow my blog, like, my readers are like, wait, I thought you gave up coffee, and I go back and forth with coffee. I love it so much. I find it so delicious, but my problem is once I start drinking it, I really quickly go into like drinking more and more and more and more, and so I've noticed that with myself. I do the best when I don't drink coffee in the mornings. So in the morning I'll have some tea. I really like my black tea in the morning. And then if I drink it in the afternoon, it doesn't affect my body in the same way. It's not as hard on me. I drink coffee a couple times a week. I'll go through for months without drinking it. But when I'm not drinking coffee, I do drink tea. So I do use caffeine, yeah. Just feeling the way that it feels in my body. I don't ever like abuse tea to the point where I feel like it's negatively impacting my life. That's just my own experience. Coffee, I've gotten to points where I'm drinking 12 cups of coffee a day, and it's been awful. It's really bad.
Oh, gosh.
I know. Yeah.
It's a ton of money, too, right?
It was funny. When I was all raw, I was eating an exclusively raw food diet for a couple months, and I was all raw except for coffee, like massive amounts of coffee, and that was a whole other conversation.
How addicting it is, and I feel like people go to it for a lot of different reasons: comfort, energy, taste. I mean,
yeah,
it's a very fascinating thing.
But
I was just gonna say there are alternatives, whether it's tea. But have you ever had Ticino?
I've had it. It's good. I like the flavor. It doesn't give me the same feeling overall.
It's mainly for flavor.
It's mainly for flavor.
Ticino's a
like coffee-free,
caffeine-free herbal option, just to give you, if you're really in it for like, if you like the routine,
the ritual of it.
The ritual, the comfort, the taste, pouring their milk in the lattes.
Right.
That could do it for you, but it's not going to give you that coffee physical sensation.
Right. But also I want to say, not everyone abuses coffee. Like my boyfriend, when we first started dating, he was like, oh, maybe I should give up coffee like you and start drinking tea. And he didn't notice any difference in his life at all, except that he just missed his morning cup of coffee, Yeah. Like he has a very small cup of coffee in the morning and maybe a small one in the afternoon, and it doesn't negatively affect him at all. I think that there are people who can drink coffee, and I think coffee can be part of a healthy lifestyle. Yeah. I'll say that. Yeah.
It's just like anything else. You have to figure it out. What works for you.
What works for you? Yeah.
I feel like if you're doing it in a sustainable, conscious way, then that's your choice.
Yeah.
Why not? But there are options, whether it's tea or Ticino or lifestyle changes. I think it's coming down to the root of it, just like anything else. Why are you drinking coffee?
Right.
Once you know why you're drinking it, then you can make a better decision about whether or not to have it in your life.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, when I was pregnant, I didn't drink coffee or tea or any caffeine for the entire 9 months, and I felt fine. I didn't miss it at all, after I got over the 3-day headache.
Yeah.
Which happens when you go off of caffeine, which is a whole other thing. But yeah.
It's interesting. All right. So Kathy asked, she's just thanking us, actually. I think this is, she just says thank you for everything, and we make a great team. Yeah. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
So Elizabeth, I am an ex-vegan and went back to animal products partly due to IBS/food intolerance, but I don't feel like I'm living according to my values. Mm-hmm. Can you recommend any vegan IBS resources?
I don't know of any blogs or resources specifically. I don't know if you're familiar with the FODMAPs research that's coming out, and we've talked about this.
Yeah,
we'll link to it. Yeah, so I'm not even going to try and say the acronym, but it's all uppercase FODMAP lowercase s, so FODMAP. And it's basically exploring these different kinds of carbohydrates and sugars and the way that they are digested and the way that they interact with each other. And it's kind of this cutting edge area of research right now where they're thinking that this has a lot to do with IBS. And there are diets, and we can link to this. There's one resource that I know, Hungry Hippie, did a whole series, and she was vegan, and she did a FODMAPs friendly diet. So that was a really great resource for that. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll think about that more, and if we come across it, we'll let you know, Elizabeth. Thank you for being so honest, and, similar to one of these questions we were answering earlier, people that are having struggles with their, physical body and specific symptoms, it's understandable why you might go off the vegan diet, because there's a lot of research about animal products helping it, but there isn't enough research about what to do. I think IBS is something that's really gotten into the media recently.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a ton of research coming out, but it's all about paleo and Weston Price, and there's not a ton that I know of that's vegan and IBS friendly. But I would also think that generally whole foods, maybe a macrobiotic perspective would be good. Macrobiotic is so healing and focuses on foods that are really nourishing your body and reacting to your body. And
yeah, I don't know much about IBS at all, except that everyone who has it experiences different triggers and totally different symptoms, and so I know that it can be really difficult to manage, and you have my empathy, and I think it's awesome that you're here and you're still talking to people in the vegan community. Clearly, you want to come back and you feel limited by your circumstances, and I think that keep talking to people, keep creating vegan community, and I believe that we could find a way, that people can find a way back into the vegan community.
Yeah.
And we're here to embrace you, not to judge anyone.
Absolutely. All right. We've already answered this one. Going through all my questions. So, username LoveGenLisa asked, what are key ingredients that add great flavor to the dishes that you use, i.e. kelp powder, roasted bell pepper, miso, and what are your favorite eco-life goodies? Mine is a glass straw.
I love those.
I love glass straws too. Okay, real quick, flavored dishes. One of my favorites is garlic.
Oh, yeah.
Fresh garlic and garlic powder.
Mm-hmm.
Love garlic powder. For me, that's a great way to cut down on salt. But we also love truffle salt.
Oh yeah.
It's a pricey thing, but you can get truffle salt.
Trader Joe's has a truffle salt that's decent. Yeah. It's not the best, but it's good.
You want to be clear about the sources. Truffle, that's going to take some research, but you can still try it and experiment with it. Mm-hmm. So I guess fresh herbs I'm really into. It's a constant evolution. I just love playing around. One of my favorite things is to go get spices in bulk. So getting spices in bulk allows you to get little amounts of it. You can get a tablespoon and experiment with that specific spice. Mm-hmm. And then when you find a spice you love, then you can invest in a bigger container or something. You can do this at Whole Foods. You can do this at most natural markets, even just plain old grocery stores have bulk sections. It's a little harder to find spice sections.
Yeah.
You might want to see if there's a spice store near you where you can get things in bulk. Those are great because then you can just try a little bit of this and that and use it for specific recipes. But I would say my go-to thing, it always comes back to garlic powder.
Garlic is good. All the alliums, I love onions and shallots and chives and all of those.
Yeah. And miso too. You mentioned miso here. I love miso.
Yeah, so miso kind of reminds me of what I wanted to say, which is umami.
Yes.
I think that there's actually a post by the Vegan RD called like, "Is umami the secret weapon in vegan activism?" or something like that. It's a really great post, but it's about how umami gives food that really like stick to your ribs, really super satisfying. So I eat a lot of umami foods. I eat miso, nutritional yeast, olives, tomatoes, sun-dried tomatoes.
Yes.
These are all umami foods. They have that kind of like salty earthiness. Mushrooms are umami. Like dried mushrooms are great in dishes.
Yeah.
So I think finding a way to add that kind of like burst of flavor is.
I think it's truffle maybe even.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, for sure.
So that's why truffle salts and oils. It's hard to get just plain old truffle. So if you're avoiding salt and oil, it's
that would be hard.
But
well, you can get plain truffle, but
yeah,
that is
really
pricey. Yeah.
Well, if you sprinkle just a little bit of the salt or a little bit of the oil, you don't need much. It's so potent,
So
and it will
amazing.
Transform like quinoa. Like
oh yeah.
you don't need anything else in it but truffle. And it's like, wow, this is one of the best dishes I've ever had.
We went to sushi the other night, and we had this little thing of truffle salt on the table, and we were like sprinkling it on the rolls. It was so
a little
good.
bit goes a long way, so you can, again, invest in it. And I think there's a truffle salt I've been using for close to a year. I mean, you keep it in the fridge because it has oil in it.
Yeah.
But it lasts a long time. So if it's expensive, remember the long-term investment there. As far as our favorite Eco Life goodies, I'm definitely a massive fan of the straws.
Oh yeah, so much.
My other favorite is to-go-ware or any sort of portable utensils. So To-go-ware is a company that makes bamboo utensils that you can throw in your purse. I always have those with me, so if anybody offers me plastic utensils, I can just pull out my bamboo and use it. And those are like $10. You can get them online or in stores. How about you?
I would say kapow and eco jars, which are like the lids that you can put on any mason cup to turn them into like a coffee cup style sip.
And now Kapow has the mason jar adapters.
The bentos.
The bento box.
Yeah.
You can turn, like, let's just say this is a mason jar. It splits into 2 compartments, so you can put like dressings or hummus.
Right.
It's still made from plastic, but
yeah,
considering it's kind of just like another way to transform something, and it's BPA free. You can reuse it.
And Eco Jars makes metal ones.
Okay, there
That's
you go.
a different brand. Yeah.
So there are lots of options. Just looking for like the stainless steel, the glass first, and the plastic second. If you're going to use it a lot, and it's not going to get hot, and it's not made from BPA, then plastic can be okay now and then.
I have a question for all of you guys out there, and maybe you can help me. I need a portable cup. And I need something that's going to be light enough to carry in my purse. And I had this idea that maybe there could be like a collapsible silicone one. I did a little research and I couldn't find anyone. So if anyone out there knows of anything that would fulfill that.
So a cup just for like
a coffee, like to get like a 16 ounce or to get like a tea or a coffee or an iced drink when I'm out and about. Something that can go in my purse that's not going to take up all this space.
That is tricky. I love the insulated containers. Like my favorite right now is by, I'm completely blanking on the brand, but they're insulated so you can keep hot or cold water constantly, but it is bulky.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fit inside.
Like I carry my mason jar now.
Yeah, mason jar.
But it's huge and it's heavy. So
and it's glass would be great.
Right. So
that is a tricky thing.
Or someone out there design one.
Collapsible cups that are not made from plastic. Silicone.
Not made from plastic, yeah.
Because if you put hot liquid, even silicone, I wonder.
I think silicone is high temp.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I think you put it in the oven.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if anyone's found something like that, we'd love to hear it. Thanks for your question. All right, Claire. We're going to answer just a few more, and then we're going to wrap up 2 hours later.
2 hours later.
Okay, I'm allergic to soy products and finding it increasingly difficult to feel confident that I'm eating enough protein in my vegan diet. Claire, I'm with you. I actually don't eat soy very often. I have it as a treat, but I consider myself mainly soy-free. And I haven't had a single problem being vegan. I'm also mainly gluten-free as well. Both of those do not react well in my body, so I took them out for the majority. When I have them as treats, my body doesn't love it, but it's nice to have the option because I'm not actually allergic. But since you are allergic, I would say that beans, of course, as we talked about, are a phenomenal source. But protein can be found in bean-free. Beans are also something I tend to avoid. So nuts. Nuts are great because there's a variety. Each nut has different protein content, so you can find one that you enjoy eating and that has a good amount of protein. But as we mentioned, proteins in a variety of foods.
The pseudograins, quinoa, teff, buckwheat. You know, I talked about this earlier for breakfasts, but they can also serve, you know, savory lunches and dinners too. Yeah. I love quinoa, and buckwheat is really underutilized. Buckwheat is really awesome and very high protein. Millet.
Does that have a lot of protein in it?
Millet is like on par, I think, with like rice.
Okay.
Amaranth is up higher with like quinoa and buckwheat. Pudla, we were talking about, the chickpea flour pancakes are an awesome protein source. Yeah, like that Science of Salads post that I referenced earlier on my blog, I talk a lot about adding protein into your meals, and most of it is not soy-based. I don't eat a ton of soy either, and I've gone for long periods being soy-free, and you know, didn't have a problem getting my protein.
You might also look into like the raw food diet, because you don't have to be raw, but just looking at where they're getting their protein from is typically from nuts, I think.
Hemp seeds, chia.
Hemp seeds are great. Nuts and seeds, I should say. Yeah. And even 80-10-10, I mean, the fruitarians out there are eating mainly fruit, some vegetables, and some nuts and seeds, and many of them are thriving. There's not a lot of long-term studies done on that quite yet. I don't know what your opinion is on the fruitarian diet, but they're still feeling good, and many of them are very physically active, so they must be getting their protein from those sources.
Right. I think that really it comes down to bioindividuality, and people need different things. And it sounds like you're feeling in your body maybe like you're not getting enough protein. And you know, if it's just a matter of adding some beans to your lunch and to your dinner, it really could be that easy. I know that we both do protein powders occasionally if you feel like you need a little boost here and there. It's not something I do every day, but I'm open to it.
I don't know if I've ever felt that I needed more protein personally, whether it's just my body or my variety of foods. But protein powders, and you can get raw protein powders too for anybody raw food listening. They can be really great. I love them as meal replacements, like breakfast. If I don't have time to make breakfast or I'm not in the mood, just drinking it makes me feel really full, and it gets in the protein. I don't think protein powders are necessary. I see them as like it's kind of like coffee for me. Like, it's a nice treat, and if I need something really quick while I'm running out the door, protein powders are nice to have on hand.
Exactly. I don't think it's necessary to get all your protein. You don't need protein powders, but yeah, if you're super busy or you know, stuff comes up, it is nice to have them around on hand. You can just slam a little protein shake.
And many of them are soy-free as well, the vegan proteins. We are fans of Sun Warrior, Vega, Growing Naturals I really like. There's
Plant Fusion is good.
Plant Fusion is really good. I think most of them are soy-free, but just double check
almost all of them. Yeah,
they're usually made with pea protein or brown rice proteins. So they, you know, again, you can throw them into smoothies, get creative with it, and I feel like protein, as we've talked about it so much in this video, so just if you haven't seen the beginning, Claire, please watch the video through, or look for the YouTube description in a few days where you can click to the different parts where we talk about protein. All right, Kelly. I love Kelly. Kelly actually complimented your hair.
Oh!
It's cool because your hair's gone through a nice evolution.
Always, constantly changing, Well, thank you, Kelly.
But Kelly, in this question asked, when I eat a plant-based diet, I get very lethargic. I'm very low in iron and weak adrenals. When I add salmon and fish back into my diet, I immediately gain energy. I want to be true to veganism, but I'm not alone in sharing my energy as glow. So we've addressed this a little bit here, Kelly, and I think you asked this question earlier on, but just to come back around, any other quick additions to that?
Yeah, so I would wonder, you know, what are you getting from the salmon that you weren't getting before you put the salmon back in? So I would wonder about DHA and omega-3s, and have you tried supplementing with a plant-based omega-3 supplement, specifically DHA? Obviously, salmon is high in protein. I'm going to say it again, protein. So have you tried eating a higher protein? There's this new book, I guess, called Paleo Vegan, which is kind of about that, which is like a higher protein plant-based diet. So maybe something like that would be more optimal for your body type. And then, you know, animal foods have more fat, so maybe you could try adding some like avocado, some more nuts. Make sure you're getting enough fat.
And I know Kelly, because I've known Kelly for a long time, has had weight loss concerns too. So maybe Kelly, you have been avoiding fats, and maybe that's something that's missing, and you're getting from the plant-based or the fish sources. So that might be something to consider, because fat is like the thing that most people say, cut out, cut out.
Right.
But if you're eating something like an avocado, that is like a whole foods fat, maybe that's going to satisfy you.
Absolutely, and coconut oil would be a good one to look into. Coconut products in general. But that sort of lethargic brain fog thing that a lot of ex-vegans talk about, I think is related a lot of the time to fat.
Yes, agreed. I mean, our brain needs certain amounts of fats. And even the 80-10-10 fruitarian diet, right, that's very low fat, but they're still very conscious about the amount of fats that they're getting. The ratio, And it's all about those ratios there. So it's, you know, I think fat is part of most people's diets. Even the vegan doctors like T. Colin Campbell and John McDougall that are promoting the low or no oil diets, it's not that they're saying no fat. They don't believe in the processed oils.
Right.
So they're advocating more for things like avocado and the high fat whole foods. So no matter what your diet, what type of vegan diet you're on, I think that fat is an important component.
And just for the iron, I would try the blackstrap molasses.
Okay.
That has been like my best iron reversal.
Awesome.
If you haven't been able to like use greens and stuff to bring your iron up, I would really try 1, maybe even 2 tablespoons of blackstrap every day.
Awesome.
I bet you'll see a bump.
Cool. Thank you, Kelly. Okay. Let's see. Rosie also asked, do you think that kids in your family are going to circuses should be educated what's really happening to animals, even if you are not their mother? Should you tell them? So I guess like if your relatives have children,
right.
The question is more, should you talk to them without the parents' permission, or should you talk to the parents and ask if you can educate them? What do you think about that?
Talking to other people's kids about veganism that's a really hard one, and it's for people who have kids and even people who don't have kids. We all interact with other people's children, and I mean, I remember the first time my friend's 8-year-old was like, "Why don't you eat animals?" And I was like, "Oh, what do I say?" His mom is like right there. I was like, "I don't want to say the wrong thing." And so yeah, it can be really difficult, and I think that it really depends on your relationship with that family, with that child, and I think it's good for you to kind of practice gentle ways of saying, you know, being authentic to what you believe, speaking your truth, but speaking it in an age-appropriate way, in a gentle way, and really like have some of those phrases in mind so that you know what to expect when a child asks you. And you know, your answer for a 2-year-old is going to be really different than your answer for an 8-year-old. So it's so situational.
It is. Although it also comes back to Ruby Roth, who, if you don't know about her yet, Rosie, or anyone, she is a phenomenal person that focuses on educating children through books. And she has several books that have been written and illustrated exclusively for children. And her philosophy, and I've heard this from many people before, is that children are really smart, and our culture has taught us to treat children like delicately and like this is age appropriate, but in some senses children just want to be told the truth.
Absolutely.
And they're a lot more emotionally intelligent than we give them credit for. So for them, maybe just speaking from your heart. I mean, of course you don't want to be like or you might choose not to be really harsh and like get into all the elephants are hit like this, you know. But maybe that's the type of kid that I think that's what comes down to what you're saying. It depends on the child, not just the age, but how sensitive is this child, and you got to feel it out as you're talking to them.
Right, and this kind of goes to our next question, which is how do you talk to your own children about veganism and the fact that the rest of their family isn't vegan? And I totally agree with you in respecting a child's emotional intelligence and, you know, believing that they can handle that information. But I also think that there's a responsibility to preserve their relationships with the adults in their lives.
Yes.
And so when you're talking to someone else's children, to just be so frank and be like, whoa, at the circus they abuse the animals, and like to really lay it on, like the kid may be able to handle that in terms of their understanding of animals, but then they're going to turn around and they're going to go like, why does, you know, like for this next question, like why does my daddy eat meat? If I'm learning that being vegan is right, then I'm also learning that my daddy is wrong. And how do I reconcile those things?
Yes.
And so that's why I think it's important to really be careful with your words when you're talking to children, and to preserve all of the different kind of interactions, relationships, and ideas that they're going to gain about the world.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I mean, it's a delicate balance. I think that we just don't want to overshield our children. And I'm speaking as I'm a single woman. I don't have children. It's a very different perspective having a child.
Yeah.
But I would just, from what I've learned and interacted with children as I have, you know, I used to do a lot of babysitting, and I would just see these sort of things, and I had the opportunity to observe so many different children in different settings and their parents, and like how different they are from one another. And it's interesting. I think a lot of children just want to know the truth.
Oh, yes.
They want to be respected. They want to be heard. They want to be loved. And children are also like, when it comes down to animals, like they love animals, and what a great opportunity to educate them when it's appropriate. I think the trickiest part is the parents.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the kids make the connection.
Yeah.
They get it. It makes sense to them because it's logical. You could explain it to them in one sentence. Well, the animals are abused in the circus, and the kids aren't going to want to go. Right. The parents, on the other hand, are going to have so much happening from tradition and what they did when they were younger and what they like to eat and all of these things. That's very different from children. Right. So the parents are the tricky ones, not the kids. And we're all just trying to figure it out. You know, my son's only 4 years old, so I'm just starting to come into these kind of interactions. So I'm still learning too about this. This is really, it's tricky territory for sure. And it's like parenting in general. I mean, you're going to make mistakes along the way, but children are adaptable, so they'll understand if you say something the wrong way and you need to re-educate them on something. You know? I wish, you know, I adore my parents, and I am so grateful for my entire life. But I do have my moments where I wish that I had been raised differently. If I had been raised vegan, if I had been raised to, you know, not do certain things or whatever. Like, I always wonder, like, well, how would that have impacted me now? Right. Granted, I am who I am because of my experiences, but I guess to me that makes me realize how important it is to educate as early as possible, because the older we get, the harder it is to change, and children can change like on a dime, you know? So we're giving them a gift by giving them that knowledge that a lot of children never receive. Well said. Okay, we'll sneak in one last question, but only because it's coming from Karen, and I love Karen with all my heart. And this is a great question that I want to know the answer to as well. Does drinking blackstrap molasses have any ramifications on your blood sugar? My blood work showed I was low in iron, but I struggle with acne, so I'm cautious of sugar intake, which seems to flare up my skin. Any tips for when/how to drink it? So I used to be very, very sensitive to sugar, and I'm not as much anymore, but I have been in the past, and I never had an issue with blackstrap molasses, and I don't know why that is. I haven't looked into like the science of why that might be, so I can't speak to that, but I can share my personal experience with that, and that's that I never had blood sugar spikes with blackstrap, which is awesome. I usually do it in the morning. I usually do it right off the spoon. I don't mind the flavor of it. It takes some getting used to. But you get used to it pretty quickly. And I'll follow it up with my normal breakfast. I usually do it right before breakfast. Okay. So yeah, I think it's tricky with acne. From my understanding of acne, it's a combination of so many factors. It's sugar, it's the rest of your diet, it's your genetics, it's your age, it's like stress can cause acne. I mean, I feel like acne is a slippery slope, and yes, sugar in general is something I try to avoid, but if you're getting like a major like nutritional benefit, few sugars give you a big nutritional benefit. Blackstrap is so nutrient rich. It also has tons of calcium, phosphorus, all kinds of other. B vitamins in it too, I feel like. I don't know. I feel like it's really dark. It's dark and thick, and a lot of those, like maple syrup as well, is loaded with. And I guess, and I'm thinking of molasses, but I don't know if I've had blackstrap. They are different. Separate? Yeah, they're different. Yeah. So it's more bitter. It tastes like licking a rock, like it's minerals. Like you taste, it's full of minerals, and it's sweet.
Do you know what the process is to make it or anything?
Where does
it come from?
I do not.
Are there organic blackstrap molasses?
Yeah, at Whole Foods or health food stores, you can get all organic, totally not processed.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Blackstrap. I want to know where it comes from, how it's made. It's from raw sugar cane.
Right. Okay.
Okay. It's the dark, viscous molasses remaining after maximum extraction of sugar from raw sugar cane.
So they've taken the sugar out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the residual product of sugar refining. It's used to manufacture ethanol. Okay, that's nothing to do with that. The third boiling of sugar syrup yields blackstrap molasses. The majority of sucrose from the original crystallizes through this process, though the calorie content of blackstrap molasses is still mostly due to the remaining sugar content. However, unlike refined sugars, it contains significant amounts of vitamin B6 and minerals, including calcium, magnesium, iron, and manganese.
Manganese, yeah.
It's such a hard one to pronounce. 1 tablespoon provides up to 20% of the recommended daily value of each of those nutrients.
Yeah.
It's also a good source of potassium. Cool. Well, it's been touted as a health food or superfood, so
yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, and I would say give it a shot. See how you react to it. If it gives you a little blood sugar spike, that might be a problem, but I am guessing that it won't.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, it has been over 2 hours.
A long one.
We had a lot to cover today. Thank you for all of your questions. I could sit here for hours and hours.
Oh, yeah.
You
I'm
are
having a good
such
time.
a wealth of information.
Oh, thank you.
It's so fun to have these conversations. So anyone who's made it to the end, it'd be interesting. Leave a comment and let us know if you made it to the end and why you stuck around, and if you think we should do something like this again.
Yeah, what do you want to hear about?
So we've got Sayward's website right on the screen, but everything we've talked about today, thanks to the amazing Rachel, who I want to give a shout out. She has a website called The Vegan Mishmash, and she's on the Eco Vegan Gal editorial team. She has been in charge of getting all the links together, so Rachel, thank you for this extra long one. She loves you, so I'm sure she's just
thank you,
soaking
Rachel.
this up, Rachel, having you. But she's incredible, so thanks to her, you will have links to all the products and websites we've mentioned, and because this has been so long, give it a few days. It might take till Monday to get all of the content, or maybe Rachel's been enjoying this so much it'll be up in a few hours, who knows. But that information will be down below. While you're there, you can find links to the Eco Vegan Gal newsletter. You don't have a newsletter yet, do you?
No, not yet. I'm working on it.
Comment below if you want to see Sayward have a newsletter, because getting all this information directly to your inbox.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
She's going to get there. We also have our social media networks, which are available on our website and listed below. And I mentioned I'm going to have the giveaway of this cool product, which will be on what's today? Today's the 21st, the solstice.
Summer solstice.
So on Monday, June 23rd, I'm going to do a week-long contest for these. I have a few to give away, plus some stands. So be sure to check that. There'll be a link in the description field once that's up. And what else? I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to this channel. She also has a YouTube channel, which will be linked down below, so go check that out. She does really sweet videos. A lot of them have her son in them.
Yeah, lots
and
of
I adore those videos so much. I hope you do lots more.
We are working on it.
Thank you so much for watching, and everyone being here. I've seen a number. There's been a big chunk of you watching the entire time, so that's awesome. We appreciate your dedication to the information. We appreciate your comments and interacting, and I'm just so glad that you are here today watching and learning. We learned so much from talking with each other and reading your comments and answering them, thinking about them. You teach us just as much as we hope to teach and inspire you.
Absolutely.
So that's it for today. Tune in every Saturday
guys.
for the Q&As. If you want to see this woman come back, even we can do these virtually too. So although I love hanging out with you,
it's pretty
really
fun.
Nice as well.
Beautiful day in LA.
Yeah.
Happy summer solstice.
Yes, enjoy the beautiful day. It's hot. We got to go out and get our vitamin D now.
Absolutely.
I'm really hungry.
I'm starving.
All this talk of food is like we're sitting in the kitchen too, eyeing all this food as we're talking about. So we're going to go eat some food, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.